Well, what a discussion we have on tap this week for Big Brother and the challenge. Joining me, as always, is Sarah Talks Big Brother. We have a lengthy but juicy conversation about Big Brother in particular, which is where we're going to start right now. Especially because we have a lot to talk about since last week's eviction episode was pushed to Sunday. So we gave you some spoilers on the last episode about things that had kind of gone on, but we know a little bit more. So we can confirm that Pooch was evicted 12-0, that Turner was HOH, and that nominations initially were Brittany and Michael. We kind of talked about that a little last week. I just wanted to kind of bring it up. They also had the Festy Bestie twist introduced, and we got to learn a lot more about that. So we told you who the besties were last week. Told you how it kind of worked, and we also mentioned that the Pose Pack split up and tried to make sure that they were with people who weren't in their alliance. It started out in their favor, and boy, did it turn fast. It was, for Survivor fans out there, that was like a classic Ben bomb. There are gonna be people that hate that, but it was epic, just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, like, sorry, I don't want to take up too much time because I think I just ranted for the first 90 seconds here.
No, it's I mean, if this week did nothing else, it left me speechless, okay? And there were a lot of moments where I'm at a loss for words. I love it. This is by far the best week we've had so far. I know we're only 3 weeks in, but it feels like 57. And just it this was much needed. This week was just a huge relief. Lots of good gameplay, lots of strategy, lots of drama. The feeds were awesome.
Some
I
of the best
couldn't have
features.
asked for a better week.
Yes,
So
I mean, like, sleepless week, but amazing week.
I'm tired as hell. As
I
hell.
I slept for 12 hours last night. Like, I zonked after everything, or maybe not 12, more like 10. But, like, I woke up at noon today, and people were like, "Did you see the live feeds last night?" I'm like, I did not see a single thing. I
I
was
spent
exhausted.
I spent from 5 a.m. this morning until 11 a.m. trying to play catch up. And what I took away, I mean, I still haven't even finished my live feed updates that I give every day because I had to dedicate an entire one to Nicole. And we'll get into that later. But
Oh,
like
yes.
it was very chaotic. There wasn't like a cohesive storyline throughout the day.
Nope.
So I kind of felt this, especially today, that I was in production shoes. We're like, how am I going to put this together to where it's palatable and people can digest it
No,
in
and
their ear holes?
it's such a good point because, like, there was so much chaos, and especially around this besties twist where it brought, like, we were open to criticize it when it first started, and we were like, yeah, this is kind of going in a direction, and it kind of started going in the direction where the majority of the house was going to really have control. As I mentioned like a few seconds ago, Post Pack really split up to make sure that they were a part of at least one of every single pairing that was out there, because they wanted to make sure that they could get the other person out on the other side of the house as simple and as easily as possible.
Yeah.
But that broke up in the middle of the week because of the formation of a brand new alliance that we Big Brother fans love to call the leftovers.
The leftovers.
Those
You know
left
what though? Like in real life, I gotta say, like I hate leftovers. If I had it for dinner the night before, I'm not taking it to work. Or if I do take it to work, it's gonna sit there in the fridge while I go out and get something. I am just like I don't like a lot of microwaved foods. I don't like the way the microwave make things taste. And if I had it the night before, I don't want it again. But I gotta say, this is the kind of leftovers I can get down with.
Oh my god. And like it's honestly, it came together so not organically or naturally, because that's not quite what I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, it just came together so quickly. It
Yeah.
was, as soon as the ball got rolling, it was rolling. It has not stopped either. It's still
No.
rolling
I'm like,
going
can
into
y'all
this
just
week.
take a break for a minute? Go and talk about some boring shit in the backyard so that I can compile my notes and keep people informed and do an update. But I can't find like a stopping point because whenever I did find a stopping point, then we're like having interviews drop and people are doing TikToks, like ex house guests are doing TikToks
Well, we'll get
that
there.
are scandalous and all the shit just keeps happening. I'm like, I mean, if you notice, I haven't even made it home yet, Abby. I haven't even made it home
No,
yet.
like quite literally, like she is recording at work right now. That is how dedicated we are.
Off the clock.
Oh,
I'm
next
not working, but
no,
I
but
didn't even
right.
have time to drive home because the shit just never stops.
Well, in full disclosure, next week I'm gonna be recording in a hotel room because I'm gonna be at a fucking wedding. So it's like this is
We're
the
versatile.
dedication.
We're dedicated.
We
We're
are.
versatile. We will
Every
drop whatever we're doing to
the
bring you
Yeti might
the
not
tea.
come. We'll see if the Yeti comes. If the Yeti comes, the Yeti comes. But I have a backup mic just in case. But there's so much to get to. So apologies just ahead of time if we end up getting a little scattered because so much happened this week that ends up overlapping that we're trying to keep everything
We're
straight.
just keeping it on brand. We're
Right.
just trying to give you the energy that we're getting from the
It's
feast.
wicked unscripted for a reason. They just made it so easy. So I just want to do a quick run over. So the members of the leftovers are as follows: Kyle, Joe, Monty, Turner, Brittany, Michael, and the beloved Taylor. Which I'll no, I'll keep that comment for later because there's some beauty in Taylor being in this alliance.
Oh,
Some beautiful beauty, and it really actually, so one of the things I thought that was amazing, I wish they had showed more of on the show, was Kyle talking about why they wanted Taylor included in this and how they felt about the situation that she had been in, largely because they hadn't shown the situation on television, so they kind of couldn't do it out of context. But man, Kyle, I don't even know what to say. He wasn't like at the bottom. He was just kind of a middle tier player for me before this week. He has
nah.
skyrocketed. Well, for me,
I gotta say, yeah, but for me, I've always graded him very high. I've said, he's got production pet written all over him.
well, that's a good point.
He has a lot of personality. He's in great with everyone in the house. He's not making any kind of waves. He has it in with the girls and he's in with the guys. Like I've always rated Kyle pretty high, and he is one of the very few house guests that I rate high and they don't totally disappoint me. So
Well, I mean, I tried to rate a lot of people high, and I'm just like I came in thinking like Nicole, not too bad. I wasn't rooting for her, ranked her high for her gameplay. That is out the window this week. For sure. But like he was one of the people, I think I say middle tier, and like I totally respect the fact that you had more insight to understand that than I did, because I was more looking and focusing on the issues that he's been having with his air quote showmance with
oh,
Alyssa, just because it's been at the beginning of the game, that's like before this really like came together, that was starting to influence his game where like the only reason this came together though is because he had a conversation, a drunk conversation with Alyssa. And Alyssa's the one who spilled the fact that the girls were working together, and he is the one who went right back to the guys and was like, "Whoa, we have
yeah.
a problem." This is the beauty. This is why we need more alcohol. Give us more alcohol.
Uh,
That could be
it
used in
does
so many
it
different
does
ways.
make it does make for some very interesting feeds at times. And some cringy ones too.
Well, that's fair. But I think more controlled alcohol. Like maybe not like giving them like endless amounts, but it's like they give it to them like what, once every like 10 days or something like that. I'm like, I
Okay.
don't know the actual number, but it's like it'd just be so nice to get a little bit more of some of these conversations that would happen more in real life if people were going out and just casually having some drinks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for
Because
sure.
I know I'd be that person. Like that'd be my flaw on the show for sure.
I know that if I was Kyle, I would probably be really nervous if Alyssa got a hold of some alcohol.
I don't
So,
disagree. Well, I also think that like he has to be careful about what he shares, and he's aware of that now. I mean, I think he always
mhm.
has been, but I think he's much more aware of that now than ever after joining the
Well, lucky for
leftovers.
us and the leftovers, he doesn't drink. So,
What a beaut! What a beaut! Oh, there was that I can't remember the conversation. It was like haven't smoked, haven't drank, and it was just like I
because
can't
he's a
remember what
bad
her
boy.
reaction she was. She like cringed in the diary room a little. She's like, I was just like, oh come on.
But he
uh,
did say, "I'm a bad boy."
yeah, we'll see. We'll see about but I mean, well, this was bad boy attitude though. Like he was one of the main people pulling this alliance together. But I want to give Joe massive kudos too. 'Cause Joe
Yes.
was really up there doing the hard work too.
So
just both.
Joe was actually really low on for me. Didn't
Same.
know anything about him. He was a last minute replacement for Marvin.
Thank
Um,
God! Thank
thank
God!
yeah.
Sorry.
How lucky did we get? I
Seriously.
mean, it's kind of like the Claire effect, at this point, where now when is it going to be set a new tone to where we get a last minute replacement to a cast? We know, like, okay, we're gonna like them. Um, so I don't know. Maybe that's it. I've been more and more impressed with him each passing day. Not just with this leftovers. Leading up to the leftovers, I was getting more impressed with him.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Figuring out
he's
the game
very
plan.
high. He's ranking very high for me right now. I think he's doing a great job too, at passive aggressively keeping the Taylor bashers in line while still being in with them and not being too confrontational about it.
Oh, totally.
Indy made some comments last night. Are we into feeds? Can we talk feeds?
Oh yeah, we can talk feeds, no worries. This is all
Okay.
unscripted, so everybody can just, if they don't want spoilers, they shouldn't be here.
Okay. Because Indy told him last night, I don't like you talking to Taylor. I don't want to see you talking alone with her. I don't want to see you in a room with her. Fuck that bitch.
Yeah, there was a lot of
And he said, what
bitch
it,
calling last night because
yeah,
Nicole called Joe a bitch last night, and I was like, you
why?
guys, what are you guys doing? You are unraveling, and it's we're entering week 4. This was
But
just week 3.
Joe's response to Indy was more like, that's not nice, or that's a great, like, he made some kind of off comment like, hey, that's not cool, and he like shut it down. And then she backpedaled. She goes, no, like, I really like her, like, she's fine. It's just, I don't, I feel like I'm on that, like, she backpedaled like hard from it.
Ugh.
So I think he's doing a good job there.
I think both him and Kyle are. There was a scene, I can't remember if it made the show or not, but I do know it happened where, like on the live feeds, where Amira, she wasn't bashing Taylor, right? But she was saying something negative about her. And like, I just don't remember what it was. And Kyle and Joseph just kind of were like, yup. And then straight up changed the conversation. Like they were not about to get into it. And I almost wonder, and we're going to get into
I
some of
remember
the.
what that was.
Oh, do you?
Joseph said that she was fierce, and she started like it was a negative thing. She goes, "Yeah, like, I mean, she is
Oh,
intense. She plays
yes.
hard." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm total bad. She's a total baddie. I love it. She's a total baddie," and like flipped the narrative to where she took it as like she was gonna oh, Joe's gonna Taylor bash with me, and she got all excited, and he like then she realized like, oh, he means it like a good way. Okay, okay, and
And
like
it's just kind of like awkward because she was like, I mean, yes.
she just goes, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go get food, and then walked off.
Oh man, and we really the unfortunate thing is we keep saying every week. Hopefully, this will be the last time that we have to talk about this negative energy toward Taylor. It is just I'm
No,
at this point I'm done saying it because I just don't know when it's gonna go. No, I do. It's gonna go away when Daniel and Nicole are out of the house. Oh, and Jasmine. Those
I
3
can tell you though.
bye bye.
I can tell you that today does look like a shift because Taylor was enemy number one in the house, and now we have enemy number one and two, and three. So now, whereas 100% of the negative energy was being um, deflected to Taylor, we now have a large segment of the house that is so over Nicole's antics, and I have a Nicole segment ready to go.
Oh, it's
Um,
funny. I have one that I'm about to get started
there
on.
you go. And then another section of the house, a lot of the girls are talking shit about Indy behind her back.
It's just so
Jasmine
bad.
has started to turn on Alyssa. So
Jasmine's turning
that
on anyone she can turn on. She will talk shit about literally anybody under this fucking sun.
Jasmine was talking shit about Alyssa to Monty, I believe, to just today. Um,
That is the lack of, and I don't mean to be a jackass with this, but there was a video I posted this week with Paloma, like saying like that Taylor lacks self-awareness, and like all of a sudden now we're literally hearing everybody else in the house saying she lacks self-awareness, she lacks self-awareness, and literally every person who is saying that is a lacking self-awareness, including Jasmine, who is just willing to throw anybody under the bus for any reason. She has
oh my
no
god.
social awareness in this game whatsoever. I mean, to be fair, Nicole really doesn't seem to have a social awareness in this game right now. I thought she did.
And Jasmine and Turner are have-nots this
Nope.
week. So if
Oh,
y'all think you've
yes.
seen insufferable Jasmine, just fucking wait. Because come like Tuesday, Wednesday, we are all going to be losing our minds for
It's
this
gonna
woman.
be
Like,
bad. No, when you guys, like, she was already miserable getting nominated, and we will discuss this a little more at length when we preview next week. But let's talk a little bit about Nicole's treatment of Taylor this week, because it is the biggest storyline of the week, in my opinion, outside of the leftovers formation. And if you haven't seen the episode, this is a spoiler alert of Amira's blind side. But this, her actions, I think very much contributed to that. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that she almost helped sink Amira's game by her negative actions. I don't think it was directly. I think it's just the way the leftovers came together and realized, as Kyle said, that Amira is the head of the snake. But we really have to go a little bit back to talk about how this treatment of Taylor just this week alone has gotten so unacceptable. So
and a lot
unacceptable.
of more media attention. We have
Mm-hmm.
headlines from Entertainment Tonight,
Yep.
TMZ,
Yep.
US. They are, everyone is, this is the major headline, is this Daniel Nicole Taylor
It's
um,
bad.
situation.
And it escalated so quickly. It could have, I mean, there are fights that escalated much quicker in Big Brother history. Like, I'm not going to deny that. But
Yeah.
this, like, because one of the things that they didn't necessarily show fully accurately on the show, but was kind of true, was Nicole was one of the people that was holding back initially about trying to bash Taylor. She was like, whoa, I want to get the full story. And somewhere in between late week 2, she into week 3, she really just started feeding into it. I wish I could peg the moment where it really occurred, but I have not. I just feel like it just continued to culminate where she felt more comfortable. But
I know the moment.
you tell me.
So I noticed the major shift in her when the whole she hit her foot, Jasmine's foot incident
Oh well,
happened.
yes. Oh,
So leading up to the
that's a
veto,
good point.
so Nicole, Indy, and Jasmine, they were, and Amira were all in the room. They were talking about potential, not like when Taylor goes up and hit the votes, and they were talking about the next week, right? But they were all kind of bonding, and Nicole hasn't really bonded with the girls that much. Um, and this was kind of like a big moment for her. So then after the veto ceremony, they, were a little shaken. And um, I guess Taylor accidentally, like, she did not kick, but like whatever, she hit Jasmine's foot walking past her,
Probably just tripped
and
on it, to be honest.
even Jasmine said, she's like, oh, Taylor hit my foot, like, and then the way she said it, it sounded like she hit, like she kicked my foot. Um, it came out that way, and the girls are like, oh, well, and they all kind of had this exasperation. Nicole jumps in into this conversation like she's there, but she's like, the girls are kind of hyping her up, and that's whenever the I'll kick her ass, like, oh no, she did it. Did she really? Oh no, I'll kick her ass. So she said it like to make Jasmine feel a certain way, like I have your back. And then ever since then, she just kind of leaned into it, where Daniel was constantly up until this point bitching about Taylor and
Yeah.
talking shit. She's had to hear it this whole time. Now she is upset about the foot Jasmine foot thing. And then we see about 20 hours later, she gets called into the DR. Whether she got reprimanded for the comment or had pointed questions directed about like, why do you hate Taylor so much, kind of energy,
Yep.
that upset her. She knew in her head how the narrative was. And I will say this about Nicole: she probably has the best read of the house at times.
Oh, totally.
So I'm sure that she got a good read on what the narrative, like what the perception is,
Yes.
and that upset her even more. So just the like looking at Taylor reminds her that people hate her and love Taylor, and her narcissistic brain cannot fucking process it.
No, it's true.
She just cannot process it because everything is about Nicole. Everything is about Nicole. She is the star. She is the female Derek. She is the BB star of BB 24 who's gonna win it all.
That is just
That's
I
who.
y'all can hate me if you want to unfollow me for this comment, you can, but like nah, this is just classic cop energy. I'm not trying to be a dick, but this is classic cop energy. Not all cops. I'm talking about the ones that get really fucking big for their britches. When they realize they have power and
Mhm.
they will use it against anybody that gets in their way. And she knows that Taylor is in her way. She chose to be Taylor's bestie for a reason. Whether or not she's just like, because I just want to get her out because I don't like her, is bullshit. They all are threatened by her. They know
And
that
she
she is
can't
a
just
predator.
and nothing about Nicole is chill.
No,
Okay? She has
none.
such a temper
Massive
that
temper.
it scares me to a point, which I find
Worse than
interesting
mine,
because
by the way.
when you start looking at stereotypes, we could talk like cop stereotypes, but also chefs.
Oh, it's such a good point because if you want to go Gordon Ramsay on that ass,
But it's not just like a Gordon Ramsay thing like that. There's a
no,
stereotype. There's like a
it
thing
is.
like that
He
that
embodies
is
the stereotype of it.
the energy, and so I just find it very interesting that those are her two career paths. Not shocking, but
No.
interesting.
And it's not
Interesting.
to drag anybody who else is in those professions. We're talking
No,
about like when she is unfortunately embodying the stereotype that
right.
you don't want associated with it. And it's like, too bad, so sad, not to you guys, because it's like if there was a journalist out there being like making media look like scum, they've had people on like Amazing Race who have done that, and I'm like, I literally can't. But they've had people on Amazing Race for a good example that have looked amazing, and I'm like,
Right.
good. So like, it's all about the casting and the intention, and it's just I feel
But
like so
her
many
temper
ugh,
it is it
bad.
is alarming. It scares me. I wouldn't go as far to say as like I mean, honestly, I could absolutely for and we talk about this every year. There's always that person, but I truly think that she could get physical very quickly and it could get
Oh,
out
I
of
do.
hand.
I think, and I don't think she understands that even a push is unacceptable. She
Right.
is the one who would get in Taylor's face. She'd
And
shove
shove.
her,
She would
and
shove.
I'm telling you, she puts her hands on anybody. I want her out of the house.
Well, it's immediate
It
expulsion.
has
They've
to be.
done
That's. I mean, Willie
that.
only headbutted Joe, and
Yeah.
that's all that it took for him to get
Yeah.
out. So, but I still am not. It's not that I don't
Oh
think
my
it. It's
God. Do you
like,
remember
have to
the,
make
was
it
it,
clear.
who was it? Was it Mark?
Oh
It was
yes, Mark
almost
and Josh.
Josh.
Mark
Mark
and
and
Josh.
Josh.
This
I
close.
remember I was terrified. Like, I mean, I remember just being like, oh my God, this is happening. This is happening. Uh,
You're giving me goosebumps just thinking about it because I remember Kevin getting in, and of all people, Kevin is like trying to grab the pots and pans. I'm like, Kevin, you are the last person. I'd take Paul in the middle of this over you.
I
And not that
remember,
Paul's
and
not
they didn't shut
big.
the feeds off either. Like for after a moment they did, but I remember hearing production yelling at
Yup,
opposite sides of the house right now. Like
yup. I
that was
think someone missed
intense.
the delay a little bit, or something happened
Yeah,
with the delay where it got a little screwed up, and it's like I don't know who. I don't know which Skippy messed up, but
yeah,
Skippy.
Skippy.
Oh man.
Yeah, that it's but it is giving. She's giving me very
Yes.
much those vibes.
Mhm.
I do not think there's anyone else in the house that would match that energy for her to go up against, but I could absolutely see her shoving, getting in Taylor's face, poking, doing the thing. Like and that's the part that worries me. I don't know how much longer we're gonna have to worry about that. I do
Yep.
feel like um, this week we could very well be seeing Nicole out the door.
And I think people are going to be a little uncomfortable hearing about that because that will inevitably mean that Taylor goes on the block and there's a risk she goes home with the vote. And a lot of people do not trust, and this is going to be a spoiler just in case you haven't seen, with Monty being HOH this coming week. There are a lot of people already who are wicked concerned that he is going to be the person that flips, that he's already going to turn on the alliance. And I'm not
I could
saying
tell.
I believe it,
I
but
can
people
tell
are
you right now. Yeah,
horrified.
but here's the thing: if you're horrified about Monty being the one that would flip, then him being HOH is the best case because he
Exactly.
wouldn't get a vote.
Correct.
So if you're worried about anyone in the leftovers flipping and losing us a number, let it be Monty, fine. But Monty's the HOH, and he has said time and time again he is not putting Taylor on the block unless she is 1,000% on board.
Hmm.
She did voice her concerns, but she wants to be for the team. She does want Nicole gone and to be free of Nicole. if she is free of Nicole, then she's immediately going to pair up with Alyssa and Indy, so that they have. That's the plan. If Nicole goes, Taylor stays. She would pick Alyssa and Indy. Therefore, they have another duo that has no leftovers on it, and she can be with them. And it's an easy. It's a safer bet there.
Beautiful. It's chef's kiss. I love it.
Yeah,
And if that can pan out, because Karma is really starting to come back around. So you mentioned the beat her
I
ass
said
comment.
2 weeks
Like,
ago that Karma was the secret house guest on this season. I've
like,
been saying it for 2 weeks now.
I mean, it usually is, but it's like this season to the max. It is insane the level of karma.
Down to Nicole busting her ass not once but twice on the hammock.
that was that was the best. The best.
Indy got stung by a bee. Jasmine hurt her foot. Amira said this game is easy. One day, literally one day in less than 24 hours, was crying at how hard this game is. Like, I mean, karma is real. She is the secret house guest. She is the twist. That bitch is the twist. And
Well,
if
it really,
anything, I know Taylor deserves America's favorite player, but Miss Karma, bitch. Miss
if we could
Karma.
vote for karma, we would give karma the money, I think, actually. Um, but I just so to go back to the beat her ass comment, I want to make this clear to people too,
Yeah.
because this is really important to note. I've made this very clear on my TikTok and comments on Twitter. I know we've discussed it at length. This is not how it was not properly played out on the live show
No.
on Wednesday whatsoever. What actually, so the way they played it up, and then they played it up in the preview or like the promo where they were like previously on Big Brother, and I was like, when I saw them say Nicole didn't want to do this in the veto, I was like, you're absolutely gonna run with this line, really? Because
Yeah.
we live feeders do know what we saw. We don't know exactly what happened, but we know. And like at the same time, I want to make sure people know. So what happened was we don't know, but we know that to some degree, Nicole was tipped off about something Taylor related in the DR. Doesn't mean that somebody told her something directly. It could have been in a line of questioning where it was just like, what would you think if this, that, or emotions on blah blah blah, and where she started to pick up. 'Cause she's not stupid. Like
Mm-mm.
we have to make sure that Nicole gets credit. She's not a dumb person. She's just not the most intelligent socially all the time. And as Sarah noted, this is coming less than 24 hours after she had said that she wants to go, and she didn't just say I want to go beat her ass. She said it. She got up and she didn't actually pound her fist, but she kind of made a strong, yes, exactly what Sarah's doing, like the strong arms where it's like she was like it was an aggressive stance, and I don't mean to like that has no connotation. It was strictly aggressive
Yeah,
because of the way she
absolutely.
acted, the comment, and it was everything. And so when she came back, she was like something to the effect of like, I can't believe people feel this way about her. I can't believe blah blah blah. And Daniel just consoling her and telling her she's 100% right. So that scene is taken very much out of context on the show. We don't know what the full context is, to be clear, but to say that it was solely because Nicole didn't want to win the veto, I just don't buy it personally. I don't think that
Mm-mm.
was even remotely the case. So then we have to mention the fact that after that, Taylor goes in to console her. So we also saw this on the show, thank goodness. But I think they had to build up to what happened. So as we saw on the show, Taylor goes to console her. She goes, if you need to tap out, you can. And Nicole's like, what? Me? Tap out? She took it
She
like,
literally meant. She literally meant, like, don't worry about me as your bestie. If you need to tap out of this competition, if you need a moment for yourself, not like the whole game.
and it's just the fact that Nicole heard what she wanted to hear. And I like it's straight up how I feel it went, because she looked at her instantly. It wasn't even like she processed it and then got mad. It was like she was like, how dare you? That's not how I play my game. And it's like she was just trying to support you. She literally came in to console her. And before that even happened, she literally looked to Monty. They thought something was wrong with her mom. And she's like, can we pray for her?
Yeah.
Like, that's
That
where I
legit
get
happened.
really
That wasn't
irritated.
editing. That wasn't production editing. That was legit. If you watched
What queen?
Quad Screen, Quad Screen, you saw on two cameras Monty and Taylor praying for Nicole, and on the other two cameras, same timestamp, Nicole saying she's such a horrible person.
It's the most like wild pairing of screens that I've seen in the longest time on the live feeds, because it was just the wildest juxtaposition when you look at it. It's just like, holy shit. It's just it, and I don't. Nicole has
But since
so
that
much to own
era,
up to out here.
since all of that, she's done nothing but like spiral. And I think with
Yep,
Nicole, I think what happens with Nicole is she gets something in her head and she kind of tunnel visions on it to where this spiral kind of happens.
it's
My
obsessive.
anxiety does the same thing,
I
and
do
to
it
an
too.
extent where a small thing, if I dwell on it too long, turns into like this massive thing. And I think that that's kind of what's happening here. I'm not saying it's anxiety, but I'm thinking like a very similar concept with Nicole, in regards to Taylor, where it's only progressively gotten worse.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, the things that she said over the last 24 hours specifically, uh,
yeah.
last night when the feeds came back post HOH last night, it was the Nicole show,
Mm-hmm.
and we went on quite the ride.
Yeah. Nicole went off the hinges, and like she went off the hinges. Then she went off the hinges um after Taylor went to console her. Like she literally like stormed through the house and was like, "She just told me to quit." And Daniel's like, excuse me, what?" And that was like, as you guys saw in the episode, why
That
this
was
whole
post.
fight
That was the
started.
veto. That was the
Yes.
renom ceremony, right? Yeah,
Exactly. Well, that was like right yes, no, that wasn't the
right
renom. That was right
before
before they played the
the veto.
video comp. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
honestly, it's so hard to keep up because there is literally so much drama to make
Well, there
sure.
was drama post veto
There was drama
ceremony.
all fucking week. Cuz
Yeah.
then after veto, when Turner made it clear in his comments that people were bullying Taylor and he didn't think that it was acceptable, Taylor and Amira and Jasmine are among the big three people in the other room going, "Who was bullying Taylor?" Who's bullying Taylor? Good
What it?
fucking lie. Good
I'm
fucking
sorry.
lie.
Self-aware who?
And
Self-aware
that's what really bothers
where?
me. And then it's like, and then to go back to your point, where over the last 24 hours leading up to the eviction and just post Amira's eviction, she has done nothing but be just miserable when it comes to
Well,
this
not just
situation.
her,
Well, yes,
but
correct.
Jasmine's been drama. Alyssa drama is a whole, like, we can have a segment on Alyssa, Kyle. I felt like I watched an episode of Days of Our Lives. It was like, girl,
Oh.
he is not that into you.
No, it's straight up. She needs to understand that, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's
I
like
feel like I'm screaming in here, but I feel like I'm
I've
not loud enough on the mic.
well, I feel like I think I brought this up in a live where it's like she has to understand that like there is a level of consent to like everything, including like how she is like touching and acting toward him. The knife stuff when she was laughing with the knife in her hand
But like,
freaked me
how
the fuck out.
uncomfortable? Let's reverse the roles. Let's say that this was
True,
a
true.
guy and a girl, okay, and a
Mm.
girl, a guy expresses his concern or
Exactly.
like his interest, right? And okay, let's talk Caleb and Amber.
Yes.
Caleb says, "I want to
Perfect.
showmance with you." Amber's
Yep.
like, "I'm not really here for that. I just want to play." And he said, "But showmances do really well in this show. I'm not even here for the show. I'm looking at like doing stuff afterward." And Amber's like, "Well, that's not my story. I am here for Big Brother." And he's like, haha, okay. And then keeps acting like they're a show and keeps calling them a showman and tells Amber, okay, so let's back this up back. She just told Kyle, like, I'm pretty sure this is the first time in BB history where a showmance didn't vote the same. You're not a showmance.
And that's really what bothers me, is that she has it in her head that it's a showmance, because he hasn't, like, he's made it clear, something people didn't get to see about one of
I
their
mean,
big
he is flirty.
conversations. Well,
He
yes, no,
is
no, no, of
flirty.
course.
But he has said the words, I'm not about this right
Yep.
now. Maybe
Oh, very
after.
clear. He also used the phrase "best friend." Like
Yes.
that was in. So there was a clip where they were talking about how close they were that they showed on the show. If I'm pointing to my TV. And there was there was a part of the episode that where they were like talking about how close they were and they were playing up the showmance, and then at the end of the clip it was him being like, "No, you're my best friend. No." And it's like that
No,
was the
yeah.
friend zone moment that we all saw, and everybody's like, "You didn't want to show that?" Like,
No, no, and like he is flirty. He's very
yep,
flirty with her, okay?
totally.
But he's also verbally said like I am not in a showmance with you. I'm not
Yep.
here for that. That I don't want that. And she just keeps referring to him as her showmance and saying like why didn't you tell me? She was sobbing last night because he didn't tell her about what he heard about postpac. So they have this whole scheme, like basically that postpac was exposed right before the vote, and so some of them voted Amira out because they didn't know what was going on. They thought that she exposed the alliance, whatever. That Taylor overheard Terrence and Amira in the storage room and that things were being told and it was a whole thing. But anyway, that is the leftovers like scapegoat plan. So Alyssa finds out about this after the vote and Kyle just kind of brushes off like I found out like right before she's like, why didn't you tell me? I feel like I look like a fool. We should have voted together on this. She wouldn't have voted Amira out.
No, no, no. Are you kidding me? And all she, because when she says that, it's not even about voting Amira out. It's that she would have, she has it in her mind that she could have somehow convinced him to not vote for Amira.
That. That and okay. And on the other hand, like she is coming on so aggressive and like she's really not respecting his boundaries and his
Couldn't agree
comfort
more.
level here
Mm-hmm.
that he wants her out of the house.
Mm-hmm. And
That
she
if for
has to.
whatever reason they can't get Nicole out this week, he wants Alyssa gone.
Yeah, and I don't really think that's necessarily a problem either because Alyssa can be a wild card down the road if she makes it too far just because of the certain connections that she does have with certain
Yeah,
people. The
absolutely.
leftovers will not last forever. I mean,
Indy's
people
just there.
like Indy is literally, but the problem is Indy is a swing vote. Indy is there, and you don't. She is so unpredictable that you don't know how Alyssa can use Indy to
And she's
her
gotten mean.
social
Like
influence.
she used to be really enjoyable to watch.
I
She's
literally
gotten very mean and
week
not in a
one we
fun
were
way.
defending her. Week three, I'm off
Where
it
like she's
so
blunt and
hard.
she speaks her mind. And it has nothing to do with like her meanness being directed towards Taylor or any other member of
Mm-mm.
the house. It's just gotten really excessive now where it's not even like a funny, like when she was direct with Paloma, it was like she was checking her. She was like,
Oh
that's horrible.
yeah.
Like, and she was just so blunt about it. Or she's like, hey, saying that kind of stuff, whatever. But then we get into the soup comment, which is even
Oh
like a
dear
very,
lord.
very indie thing to say what she said to Taylor. Now, the throwing it in her face and had the extreme she took it to afterwards seemed extra dramatic. That's the kind of more side that we're getting lately with Indy.
Mm-hmm.
Like what we just saw last night when she told Joseph that she didn't want Joseph talking to Taylor, period.
And like again with the soup comment too. Like so the to clarify, she made a comment saying that she was so angry she wanted to throw hot soup in Taylor's face because of the fact that Taylor told her that the slop soup wasn't that bad. And it
Mm-hmm.
would like so I can understand where she hears that phrase and she's like, it's not that bad. That is not what she was saying. She was like, oh, it's actually not that bad. Like, congratulations that you have something edible to eat while you're on slop. She was trying
Right.
to compliment her, and everybody is just running with not everybody, but so many people are running with the things she says because they just have this negative connotation in their head about her. And they're just like, this is what I'm gonna go with.
Yep.
This is what I believe. And so to their detriment, that is why the leftovers formed. It's not the whole reason, but it is a large reason why the leftovers exist the way they currently are today, and they are getting their asses handed to them right now. Not the leftovers, indie and old school. Everybody on the opposite side of the house, just asses
Indy
handed to them right now.
Indy did not just call Taylor a bitch to the Joseph comment, but she also said to Jasmine, if you have any say so, you make Taylor a have not next week. She said, you make that bitch a have not. That's what she said. Pick that bitch next week.
Literally, I can't. These people, like, no one's saying there shouldn't be some sort of animosity if it's like game related, but this is getting so personal that I'm just, it's not.
And then what? Like, find a better adjective. Like, why are you calling her a
Mm,
bitch when she, like, literally is the opposite of bitch?
mm-mm. Like, And you can't even
I
call
mean,
her mean. People call her mean, like, literally that was part of the Paloma stuff that I put together. I know that was Paloma,
yeah,
but it's like, you can't even call her mean. She wasn't mean.
no.
She hasn't done anything mean. Name the mean thing. Paloma was like, "Oh, she told me I dropped pineapple. It was so condescending." And I'm like, "Fuck out of here." But that has started perpetuating at this point. Like, I know that was a Paloma conversation, but that's something like these little things she would harp on with these girls. These girls were at first like they were still sketch, but they were kind of like a lot of these things have been parroted. Like we were just talking about like the self-awareness thing that Paloma said, and now all of a sudden people are like, she's not self-aware, she's not self-aware. Like Paloma's talking about stuff about like just it's not even
Here's
making
the
them be
thing.
angry. It's those little things where they want to pick on it because they're like, oh well, if that happened and she was mad, then so am I.
Well, here's the thing. Like, they got checked. They got told like the dog piling in Tyler on Taylor's not gonna fly anymore. It's
Yep.
not okay. But now with Amira gone, what has happened is that we'll call them the mean girls. We're talking Jasmine, Indy, and Alyssa have now like taken in Nicole in her rage too. And when the four of them get together, if you're ever on the feeds and the four
Really
of them are
bad.
together, pull it up on your phone because I want you to screenshot whatever you can, save clips, do whatever you can,
We need
but
receipts. Everybody
we
needs
need
to save
receipts.
receipts.
But when you see Nicole, Alyssa, Jasmine, and Indy all four in a room together, they are being nasty.
And it
Like,
doesn't necessarily
for
have to be about Taylor anymore at this point. Like she's the main
no,
target, but they are nasty about
every room.
everyone.
But
Everyone.
it
Brittany
is
right now is
it,
another main target too that they are just
they
ripping to
just did
shreds.
it when Brittany came into the room and Nicole
Horrible.
turns around and she's like, can we have a minute?" and kicked her out like, "You can't come in here." I'm like, "Bitch, she sleeps in there too." I
Nicole
don't
has a
know.
tell. Nicole has a tell where it comes now whenever she says, "Can I have a minute?" I don't I like that is her being totally bitchy. I do not give a fuck
Yes,
anymore because
yes.
like she has used it as a defense in so many situations. Daniel was literally coming to talk to her about a fight that she had, or not a fight, but how she was angry at Alyssa over a slip up that she had in front of Indy. And she's like, "Can I just have some time?" And Daniel's her number fucking one. And I'm like, dude, you really have to fucking check
She
yourself.
has a really like she has this sense of entitlement that she's entitled to
Oh,
privacy or any room of the
yep.
house when she wants it,
It is Big
and
Brother.
that
You
is
don't have privacy fucking anywhere.
no. And this is and another thing too. Like, I feel like a lot of this is coming for like, okay, they wanted to ostracize Taylor, and by doing that, what happened was the other side of the house took her in.
Mm-hmm.
They're not upset that they're on the opposite side of the house. They are upset that Taylor's on the right side.
And they're upset that people are even supporting her. It's double. It's on
Yes,
both of them. They're like, first of
yes,
all, how can Taylor have allies? And second of all, how can those allies actually want to like her?
yes.
Like it
They're
drives them
more upset.
insane.
They're more upset about Taylor having people that have her back than they are about the spot that they are currently in.
Or even just as a strategic moment wanting to get Taylor out. Like they're not even looking this in a strategic way. They are being so it's been taken to such a personal level.
And from what I've seen, though, the talks with Monty, Jasmine and Indy have both thrown Taylor under the bus, saying Taylor wants you out. She wanted to backdoor you. Blah blah blah. Monty already knows about that. Him and Taylor already cleared the air when they knew about the leftovers and how this was going to draw lines. They exposed Postpack.
Yep.
She came like they talked. She said to all the guys like, "I wanted to work with the girls in the beginning. I was looking at her. I've told many of the girls that I would never put a girl up on the block.
Yep.
That's changed now." So
Good.
they cleared all this air and they got all this dirty laundry out. But Monty's being fed this like, well, Taylor said she's gonna do this, and he's like, oh yeah, uh huh,
He
uh
is
huh.
in a really good position. I know a lot of people don't trust him, and like you mentioned earlier, luckily his vote doesn't actually technically matter unless there's a split. Um, but I just think that people should really give him a chance. Like I just like
He's being
especially
genuine.
yeah,
He's
he
being
really
genuine.
is.
He has not expressed any kind of concern, and he even had said like, I know a lot of people, including um Jasmine threw Nicole under the bus. Monty wants Nicole to go. Indy made concerns, like comments, like offhand comments about Nicole. So I feel like putting Nicole on the block would be available. However, I don't think he's as trusting as to like they just want Taylor on the block too. But they also don't know about the leftovers. They don't know the numbers that they have. And so no matter who the leftovers put up this week, they have the numbers to send them home. Period.
It
It
might
does not
almost be
matter.
smart to cover up the leftovers. I know this isn't going to be something that people want to hear, and I'm sorry,
Hmm.
but it might be good at some if they are the initial nominees to go up, because if they're going to plan on getting Nicole out the door, Monty is not really showing the leftovers cards right now.
Right.
It's like you have to think about the pairs that he can put up and how he could accidentally
He is
expose the
playing it with
alliance.
the non leftover people. He is playing it that yes, he knows he wants Taylor gone. He has kind of made some comments along the lines of like, but I don't think she's like a threat to me right now, and so I'm
Yeah.
just trying to make use of like the best use of my HOH. Like, is that the
Yep.
best move for me this week? Which is a good way to play it. It's the way I would have played it. But he has told the leftovers multiple times. He said the same thing to Joseph, to Kyle, to Taylor, to Brittany. He said, if Taylor is not 1,000% comfortable with this plane and doesn't want to touch the block, she's not going to touch the block, and we will put up Indy and Alyssa
It's so important to know. It really is. And
because
like,
he's making a very point, and he said it, Kyle said it, Joseph said it. They've all said we want to establish trust with Taylor, and we do not want her to feel like we've used her.
yep. And I think it's really important that people know that because
So
um
I doubt it will make
there
the
is
show.
so much, and I understand why people are so skeptical. At some point, like it's so hard to go back and find all of the information to show people everything they need to have the comfort that they know that Monty is not going to flip. I think one of the conversations that like needs to be highlighted is the one that they showed on the episodes where Taylor and Monty were having conversations about race. That was a that was a breakthrough conversation with them. Absolute breakthrough conversation. It wasn't the only breakthrough conversation, but it was absolutely one of them where it was you could see how he really did have a shift in how he was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
I need to look at myself."
Yeah,
He seems to like because I was skeptical at first
it was
personally
such a
about whether or
good
not he
talk.
wasn't. It was amazing to see that, and then to see the DR after and him really talk about like that is how he felt. There was nothing that was ingenuine or
I
disingenuous
need
about it.
someone to
Like
send me or like find. I need a YouTube link of the whole hour and a half conversation.
same too. I could like
Uh,
watch it as a movie to be
exactly. Yeah.
honest. So um give me one moment. I'm actually gonna start my air conditioning because it is fucking hot in here.
Okay. Am I too low?
Nope, you are good.
Okay, because I'm watching like the little sound wave things, and yours are like touching top and bottom of the
Well,
little
also
ones.
because I'm screaming into a mic that I should probably move farther away from my face.
But I feel like
Um,
last time mine were like up a lot, and it's now it's like I wonder if you're gonna
well, you're
vary it a little
definitely a
bit.
little quieter than you were last time,
But like
but
it's last time I
it's
was too loud.
right. We'll
Okay.
figure it out. Don't worry.
Okay.
This is still
Okay.
we're still working out the kinks, but
Okay. Are we going to
so
get into the? Do we want to do a Nicole segment of her spiral last night?
we will. I want to get through Amira and some stuff with that first, and then we'll
The
talk about
Amira
Nicole.
interview.
Yes, and then we'll
Okay.
do some stuff when we talk about week 4. We've already told you obviously some stuff that's going on past this week, but we want to make sure, or this week being week
Oh, I
3,
figured you were
we're gonna
good.
do. Oh, I don't mind. No, it's good to just have the open conversations, but we're
Okay.
gonna preview it a little bit and give you like the concrete information about what is going on moving forward. So, just to kind of do a quick recap. So, um, as we mentioned before, Amira was straight up blindsided this week. Um, I guess it's not like a 100% blindside because she was a little suspicious of it, and she wasn't like it wasn't like she was
Dressed for comp.
fully right. She was not dressed for a comp, but she was surprised. If you saw the look on her face, she
I mean,
was stunned. It wasn't a
a
full
little
stun though.
biased. I feel like someone told her right before they started voting, or gave her a look like I
Could
don't
have
know.
been.
The way she was dressed was just suspicious to me.
I
And the
agree.
way
Don't worry.
Terrence was dressed, because Terrence specifically brought like this whole church clothes outfit to go out in, and I don't know. If I
No,
was
I'm
Amira, I would have taken one look at Terrence and be like, "Cool, I'm going home. Is this
but
happening? This
I
is
kind of almost think that she is oblivious to that point, and I don't mean to be, don't mean to bring Nicole back in, but I'm just saying she and Nicole are two people who were like, I know this game. And
True.
then they literally are like, it's like, in like one of the comments we'll get to with Nicole later is like, Nicole's like, "How this is the first time an alliance has been formed against a big alliance," and it's like, are you stupid? Are you
Oh my
that
god.
dumb? Like, I can't even with some of the things. Like, one of the things I want to bring up is discussing Amira. Amira was very clearly oblivious to certain parts of the game, in my opinion, and that was because of the live feed situation that she had no clue how it
Right.
even worked. She had a conversation with Taylor during week 1 where Taylor had to sit and basically, she didn't have to, but they were just talking about it. And she's like, okay, so you have 5 options. You
She
have
got up on the mirror.
literally,
She was like, okay, it's like this,
you can't
and
draw. So she did everything she could that wasn't drawing to illustrate how the live feeds work. And when she finally told, and then Amira's like, and people watch that? And she's like, oh, all day. Like, they do it all the time. She's like, really, all day? No one does it like that. And like, us live feeders are cackling because it's just like, you dumb. I don't mean to be mean, but it's like, don't go on a show and they tell you the live feeds are 24/7 and then think the live feeds aren't 24/7. Like,
I
and she goes,
honestly,
that's weird. That's fucking odd. I can't believe people would do that.
I honestly think that Taylor, from what we have figured out from the feeds, I think Taylor and Michael are the only two feed watchers.
Yep, I think Brittany is like a follower, but not a watcher. Like, she's one
Right.
that like follows along with like
What's
everything on
happening?
Twitter, and like I think that's I want to make sure people know that's a very valid way to watch the show or to follow the show, because the live feeds are a different animal if you're trying to get into
It
that.
takes a lot of time and dedication, and also
Exhausting.
if you don't have a lot of time to dedicate to it, you could log in and every time you log in it's puppies or boring stuff in the backyard where they're just laying around.
Hmm.
So that's why you and I do what we do and we have such a following on TikTok, is because we condense 24 hours worth of stuff into 60-second and 3-minute videos.
It's a talent, and I'm not trying to like toot our own horns, but boy, we've honed it over the last couple of years
It's
because
a
it's been
full-time
hard.
job. Yeah.
Oh, people like I mean, I knew that's what I was getting into, but when I tell you so many almost sleepless nights, there was one day I was at work and I was talking to my boss and I was like, "Sorry." He was like, "Edit here, edit there. Sorry about all these edits in your article." It was either Wednesday or Thursday. I'm like, "I am so sorry. The live feeds kept me up all night. I just got to be honest. I got like
Yeah.
3 hours of sleep." He was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And he was super understanding and he's like, "Don't worry cuz I have Friday off." And he's like, "You're almost there." Super supportive, and I'm like, "Thank fucking God," because I can't imagine telling my boss that I'm tired from watching the live feeds and having a positive reaction. I was
Yeah.
so prepared for him to be like, "So, the night before you were supposed to do your job, you were up watching a TV show?"
Well, the last 10 years of my career have been summers or slowest. This year is an exception just because
Likewise.
of staffing issues. So I'm doing like 3, 4 different people's jobs all together at the same time. Um, so it's been, it's keeping me busy. It's keeping me young, or
Gotta
making
love
me
seeing
old.
it.
I don't know, one or the
I was gonna
other.
say. But one of the things, to go back to Amir's eviction, that I thought was really hilarious was the fact that it wasn't even technically a member of the leftovers that sealed her fate. It was Daniel.
Daniel.
That was the icing on the cake for me, because Daniel obviously had no clue that this was going on, and he was throwing a sympathy vote to Amira for Terrence. Basically, he was like,
If he had not given the sympathy vote, Amir would still go out 6-5.
"Yep." It was a 7-4 vote at the end of the day. At the end
Yeah,
of the day.
yeah.
Um,
But making it a 7-4 has definitely caused a lot more chaos in the house.
yup. Also, let's just note how like the shocked ass looks on Old School's face and Indy. Well, I don't know. I
I
actually missed
I
Indy, but
tweeted screenshots of all of
oh, my favorites personally were Nicole and Alyssa. Like, straight. I think that's a lot of people's, but like Alyssa's, like, that would have been me if I was blindsided though. So I can't really judge it in a sense, because if I was blindsided like that,
But
I
like,
would have
I
looked like
don't
an
know. Like,
ass.
yes, I get it, but there's three.
Yeah. Yep.
Every blindside or Julie announcement or expect the unexpected moment, every surprise in the Big Brother house is going to have one of three reactions. And this is a treat just for you, like those of you going to watch this on YouTube. But reaction one, you got the jaw drop, you got that. Reaction two, you got the face covering. And then reaction three, you got the hair, the head, the hands in the hair. Okay.
The
The Michael.
classics.
We're going to call it the Michael, the Alyssa, the Nicole. And you know what? It makes me think of the Hear No Evil, See No Evil, Speak No Evil monkeys,
Ooh,
where
I
I
love
feel like we could
that.
like have a shirt made of BB reactions, and because we should start
That's
playing
so
bingo
good.
or doing
Yep.
shots. Who's
Hmm.
gonna be the hair? Who's gonna be the face? Who's gonna be the jaw?
We're gonna do a podcast like that. I'm telling you right now.
It
Already,
just
right
needs to
now.
be a new weekly
There
thing.
will be a live episode that we will podcast through, and we will drink like straight up, or maybe we do it for um a live HOH competition on the feeds,
Yes.
like for people who drop like that'd be super fun to do
We
something
need to do
drinking
a
wise.
giveaway too. I'm marking it out. We need to do a giveaway or some kind of betting mechanism of some sort, a poll, something for people to place their bets on who the jaw dropper is, who the hair person is, and who the face cover is going to be for the double eviction announcement.
Oh, I love
Double
that.
eviction happens when Julie tells the house that that night's a double eviction. Scan it and find out who the three are.
I love that. Honestly, there's so much fun and interactive stuff that like
Yeah.
I feel like people have been missing like, but I'm glad that we're getting really into having like a different fandom on TikTok, cuz the
Yeah.
Twitter fandom is amazing, and I'm not there is no drag. Like I have loved
None.
the Twitter fandom forever, but the
They can be
video.
scary as fuck, but yes.
Well, yeah, like there's a reason that Paloma is not on Twitter right now. Like
I should
Pooch has
be.
some balls, and we will talk about that. We will talk about Amira first, though, and actually, that's a oddly beautiful segue into this conversation. So we just mentioned Amira was evicted last night. She was a little shocked. Julie was like, "You said this was easy." Totally, totally confronted where she was like,
that was like my favorite part. I was like, Miss Julie thing, Miss Julie.
and
I
the
see what
look
you
on
did
her
there.
face, she kept I'll be honest, she kept a decent straight face when she was looking at the leftovers, but I could feel the energy when she saw Taylor in the corner. And it's like it was so that I don't
If
know,
looks
maybe
could
this
have
is just a
killed, if
theory.
looks could have killed.
I think they wanted to ensure that in case that like Julie was somehow in the way of someone's photo, that Taylor was in direct eyesight.
Yes, they made it
But
to where she didn't have to bend any kind of eyesight. It was boom right
nope.
there in your face, looking
You
right
saw
back
she
at you.
started bending, and I'm like, you are avoiding looking at Taylor, my girl. I
Uh-huh.
genuinely feel like you
Oh
won't
yeah.
acknowledge it. That is just the way I read it. It might be totally different, so I want to just totally bring that out there. But Sharon Tharp from Us Weekly has done an exit interview with her, and
As has
yeah,
Rob Sesternino from
yes,
RHAP.
I
Yeah.
actually I haven't gotten through
It's
RHAP's one
so
yet.
good.
So
It
so
was
if you
I
want
liked it
honestly,
better
if you
than
want to bring up
Sharon's.
anything about that, I have notes from Sharon Tharp. It's just because
Mhm.
Sharon's came out just now, and I haven't had
Yeah.
any chance to listen to Rob's yet. So please bring up any points about his at any point. I want to say about Sharon's interview that Amira absolutely owned up to certain things. The
Mhm.
only thing I'm going to say is I did not hear the actual words "I am sorry" or "I apologize," and I want to make
No.
that very, very clear. I have already posted part one on TikTok. I know this is going up tomorrow, so probably all the parts will be up at that point. But I'm going to say part one, I haven't made that mention of that yet. I will be making sure that that is noted because it was one of the things where I was sitting there. I'm like, okay, like, because Sarah was the one that actually calmed me down when I was listening to this interview. And I'm like, so many things that bother me. But she was like, you have to understand that she is owning up to some things, that she did literally say word for word, I
She's
contributed.
she is owning up to things without seeing the receipts first, which means
Yes.
more to me. It carries more weight with me.
Yep.
They grab them for these interviews right out the gate. They
Yep.
might tell them a little bit like, "Hey, this is kind of what's going on. You might not have a job anymore, whatever." But they give them this info. So the fact that she was able to immediately, like, she didn't immediately get super defensive. She was like, "I participated. I had a hand in that." Um, And I do feel like it got out of hand. I do feel like it snowballed. I tried to do what I could. She gave us some excuses. I get it. But the reason I'm not going hard at her right now is because when she gave these interviews, she hasn't seen feeds yet. She
Mm-hmm.
hasn't seen quotes. She hasn't had that moment where she's like, oh shit, yeah, no, I did say that. Oof, I shouldn't. Okay, no, that was a heat of the moment thing. Like, I shouldn't have said that. She hasn't
Mm-hmm.
had those receipts yet because they're not giving those to them out of the
No.
gate. They're just kind of giving them like a brief, like a debriefing.
And that is
And
actually legitimately what they do when they get off. It's not like they're like, "See you later," and then they just have them walk home. Like they. I want to say, I don't quote me on this. I want to say they meet with a psychologist after, but then like
mhm,
they do stuff where they do get debriefed about like how things are going to work outside of the house. It doesn't necessarily always involve, "Here's how you're going to be looked at." It's usually
yeah.
that's when a contestant has been facing to some level a level of scrutiny on the live feeds where they're like, we just want to warn you,
And we've been
blah blah blah.
talking about this a lot, especially with Pooch and Paloma. And I've said this before, and I don't want to like just I don't want to harp on this too much because I
Beat a
feel
dead
like we're
horse.
constantly saying. I don't like that phrase because it sounds so mean
I
and
get it.
morbid.
Oh, that's so good. You know what? I'll never say it again after you brought it up like that. I never even thought about it like that.
It
Jesus.
crosses my mind, and I'm like, ooh, I don't want those words coming out of my
I
mouth.
never
Uh,
honestly. Oof. Anyways,
it's fine. It's an expression. It's an expression. I'm a weirdo. Okay, I don't
you are
like
not a
certain
weirdo.
words.
You're watching your words, and it's smart because we also don't know where something like "beat a dead horse" even came from. So, to be honest, I should
True.
probably stop using phrases that I can't
Know the
confirm aren't
origin.
horrible.
Yeah, I have a whole
um,
list of them that I've learned over time,
oh, me
but
too.
that
And
you
I'm
wouldn't
like,
even think.
my
Yeah.
bad.
So, anyway, the what we've been saying over and over again is the worst thing, the absolute worst thing you can do. I'm gonna do this so I make sure I'm not screaming. I feel like I'm screaming in here.
You're not.
The
You're good.
okay, the worst thing you can do is come out of the house and say, you don't see everything, it's edited. It's just an edited
Mm-hmm.
show. It's just a show. It's just a game show, a reality show. No, it's not. First of all, it's not classified as a reality show. I understand that. We do have production ads. I absolutely get that. But on the other hand, too, is you need to take a minute because obviously you did something to spark some controversy. You need to take out, self assess, and read through, and then you need to like do your due diligence. I'm not talking watching the episodes because I guarantee you, child, nobody's pissed about the episodes. They're never pissed about the episodes.
Mm-mm.
That is why the Daniel Taylor bashing episode with the Beto, that whole fight was such a big deal because the
Mm-hmm.
casuals are not used to being hit with that much information. They're
No.
not used to being hit with that just kind of blatant, oh my god, drama. It is normally a much watered down version of the true events.
Yep.
So, which it still was,
Oh yeah.
which says a lot. But if any house guest comes out of the house, the best thing they can do, I feel like Amira's doing that, is just hearing what people have to say, saying from her current perspective. What I could only hope she does now is spend time researching, take a week or
Yep.
two, get truly caught up,
Mm-hmm.
watch the clips going around Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
self reflect, look inward, check yourself, check your responsibility, and then get a publicist to help you put together a statement.
If you didn't get a publicist before going on here, I'm not trying to be a jerk. You are behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
Like that is
It
problem
doesn't
number
matter if
one.
you are a good person, a decent person, a
No.
horrible person. That
What
is
if you
just
won the
a
money? You need to manage it. You need someone to be there, not just a publicist. You need a
when
lawyer. You need people
it's
to be there to help
yeah, it is not just about okay. And I don't
trustworthy.
want to say like you need a publicist, just twist your words because if you're I
No.
get it. If you're genuine, you're genuine. But as somebody who I tend to like I need to really think about my words and make sure that the message I am trying to convey gets across exactly how I want it to get across. Like I am
Yes.
trying to put all my purpose in these sentences. That is what publicists are for. That is
Mm-hmm.
what, you can issue a statement and it's like sending a text message. It can come off a myriad of ways. You need someone to help you deliver a clear and concise statement of
Yes.
your true intentions.
Yep. And that's actually like I'm going to agree with that, and I'm like a member of the media myself.
Mhm.
So it's one of the actually like when I say she needs a publicist or somebody like to help her, it's not because she can't defend herself. It's because they know the ins and outs of all the questions that are going to be asked, all of the they can already have an idea if you got them beforehand, have an idea of the criticism you're facing.
Mhm.
So rather than having somebody just jump right in right after and try and catch themselves up, because I mean, unless they were watching the live feeds on Big Brother, they got a fucking shitload to catch up on all of the things that were said. And so it's
Yeah.
tough when you have nothing to help you when you're getting out of the house because you act, and I don't mean this in a bad way.
I mean,
Every
shit. I took
contestant
one
needs
day
it.
off. I took a half a day off to go to a doctor's appointment, and I felt like it took me 2 days to get caught up from that.
I slept
So,
for 10 hours last night and I was like, what? Well, one of the comments I want to bring up. So here's the thing. So she has, we have given her credit, but I do want to bring up some specific criticisms. We don't have to necessarily take sides on how we feel, but I want to bring up some things that weren't necessarily consistent
mhm.
with what we were able to see,
Right.
or things that she may have worded in a way that she might not have wanted to and may want to at least like revisit moving forward. One of those comments is calling Taylor's actions snarky at the beginning of the game and saying that she came off snarky and that
She
um
said, but I will say this. I give her credit. She said perceived as
and
snarky.
I was just going to say that's a good, I'm glad you corrected me. I was going to read that part. So yes, she said perceived as snarky, and I think that's why I want to say so with snarky, I disagree, but the wording, it helps because she's at least saying that maybe it wasn't actually what it was, because she also around the same time was talking about, yeah, like I contributed to this, I was at some points like part of the animosity that existed
Mhm.
around her.
And
So
I've said this in previous shows before and on live that Taylor has a very honest way of speaking.
you took the words right out of my mouth.
And because of the way and you'll have to remember, Taylor's not a pageant girl, meaning she has not been in pageants her whole life. She turned 28, 29, I don't know, but she woke up one day and was like, hey, I think that would be fun. Let's do that. She's not like a career pageant girl. This is it. So, anyway, it's
Right.
not like a pageant training thing, but she is so blunt and honest that we saw a clip of this. If you can look and just remove yourself from everything you know about Taylor and the wonderful human being she is, and the fact that she hasn't said anything negative about anybody in this entire house, even after they're awful to her. All
Take a
of
breath.
those, oh my God, all, but putting all of those out of your mind, if you watch just the clip of Taylor walking into the bathroom with her Lay's potato chips and her responses to Daniel, he is upset. He says like, I don't want to talk to you, and she's like, oh yeah, like she thought he was joking, but she wasn't laughing or smiling. She was like giving it back to him in a way that
Yeah.
if you know her and you are friends with her and you hang out with her, that you might know exactly how she means it. But these people have not given her any chance. They have not gotten to know her. She's not on that level where she can like joke around. Like I have people that I don't hang around a lot and I am snarky and I can be a smartass and like to mess
Oh
with
yeah.
someone as far as like joking around and like trying to josh with them. But there, I still have to say like I'm just kidding. I'm just like and do like I'm just kidding like at the end of it because they haven't gotten to know my sense of humor just yet. I think that that's kind of what we're seeing with Taylor, where when she has these moments where she'll make a comment about pineapple falling on the floor or soup or whatever, she says it in such like a monotone way. They don't know her because they haven't given her a fucking chance. Like they
Yep.
haven't gotten to know her at all. But she's trying to be like buddy buddy, and they're just not picking it up. They're like rubberized. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like it's just bouncing
absolutely.
right off of them and they're perceiving it as snarky, and that's part of their bias. I'm not saying racial bias.
No.
I'm saying that that is their bias because they made up their mind about her that she was a pageant queen bitch in the beginning. So everything out of her mouth is automatically a negative intention. And
Mm-hmm.
we have all experienced this. You all have
Mm-hmm.
somebody that when they send you a text message, it can say, what are you doing tomorrow? And you immediately read it like, what are you doing tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like, that's what's going on here. And so I respect Amira. response was saying it was perceived snarkiness.
Right.
I can see it to an extent. I do not think that was just cause to call her the names, say her mom was ashamed of her.
Yep.
The things that Amira said about Taylor, those that one doesn't equal the other. I'm
Right.
saying that I feel like they have. I can absolutely see where they thought that about her, but I cannot justify that being their response to who they thought she was.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point to bring up because one of the things that I feel like so Amira is admitted to a lot, and you can correct me if this happened in Rob's podcast and I missed it, but she didn't really own up to those kinds of things where she was like, I was like being mean about things that weren't necessary. Like she was just like, oh, I would hear things. I mean, I guess she would to an extent, but I think trying to I'm
No,
trying to
she
get the right
stayed
words.
vague,
Like,
which, to be honest, I don't know. These are not celebrities. They're not used to dealing with press and everything. She probably doesn't remember a single freaking thing she said at this point. She's
true.
probably trying to nail down some shit that she said. But if I were her, if I was any of these house guests, I'm being interviewed back to back to back reporters. I just came out of the house, found out America hates me. I was just blindsided out of the house. I could tell you that and again, I know I sound like the apologist here, but I just try to
No,
give
no,
everybody like the sense of empathy and like try to get in their headspace and giving
no, because you
everyone
need
a
to give
little
them
bit of
time.
grace.
You
Yeah,
have to give people
I
time.
don't
It's
think that
a
she could
psychological
probably,
game.
yeah, I don't think that she could honestly nail down a single quote right now. Maybe by today, but or if she starts like getting some of those reminders and those situations that she was put in, uh, yeah, I just know that like, okay, my sister was on. Do you remember the Jay Leno segment, Jaywalking?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So my sister was on a high school field trip, and my sister is one of the smartest girls I've ever met, straight A student. She's brilliant. She got asked one of these questions. Now we're from Texas. We've lived in Texas our whole life, and she got the "Where is the Alamo located?" question wrong. Um, and it was simply because she's got a microphone in her face and she's like she completely blanked on everything she thought she knew. He could have asked her what color the sky was and she would have been like purple. I don't
Purple.
know, like
Did we just say
we did.
purple? Art.
This
This is
is getting a
art.
little creepy, okay?
Oh my god. But it's a good point because when you're not trained in this, and I think people forget that people like Kim Kardashian, when you're seeing stuff, people think
Hmm.
that they're saying stuff off the cuff, and it's just more of that, like, it was probably not as well thought out as it could have been. Everything they do is calculated. When you're
Right.
talking about real people coming out of reality TV, that's not the case. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I want to bring up here is a lot of what's happening, not just with Amira, Paloma, and Pooch especially. They're
Hmm.
actually more Paloma and Pooch than Amira, but we're talking
Right.
about like people who are like, well, this isn't exactly how it happened. I want to talk about how I perceived it, but it's like the difference between being on a show like Big Brother and a show like Survivor is Survivor, there were no live feeds, there are
Right.
no receipts, so you can, in a way, bullshit people to make us think
This
what
is
you
what
want,
really
and we
happened.
will
Exactly.
never know the truth unless it comes out in an exit interview and things start kind of coming out and we have to have a discussion. But unless it's not discussed, it's not brought up.
Right.
So I think people who don't understand the context, or not just context, but the way this game works, you can't walk into this game and then expect to be able to defend every single comment. That's why I say a publicist is important if you're going to go into Big
Hmm.
Brother, especially because it's live. You're facing live criticism, and God forbid you say something that's bad, you have to be able to back it up. And it's not even just bad; it's something that people might criticize.
And again,
Um,
I don't mind if they come out of the house and tell me perceived is the key word. If
yes,
they say this
exactly.
was my perceived reality, this is what it looked like to me, this is what I felt, and this is what I was thinking in the moment, this is how things felt to me, this was my perceived reality, this is my perceived truth, okay?
Yep.
And then are able to look at it from other house guest perspective, from the viewer's perspective. If they are able to take that time and look at those clips and review that footage and really self-reflect and say, "Oh, yeah, no, that is bad. That's bad, my bad." And we've seen it again. We've like I bring up Caitlin Herman. She is the
Yep.
absolute perfect example of how you should exit the house.
Yep, I agree. One of the other things I wanted to bring up, well, there's a couple other things about what Amira was asked about. One of the things was the Girls Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon did not hold back and was absolutely blunt when she was like, "Why was Taylor not included?
Yes.
Wouldn't you think in a Girls Alliance, girls would not be excluded?" She did bring up a decent point, and I want to say I have so she brought up that Nicole was initially has never been part of the Girls
Right.
Alliance. But my thing that I want to bring up is Amira later aligned with Nicole, so it's a little bit different in my eyes because it's like, cool, so she wasn't part of Girls, but you never aligned with Taylor.
No,
You
and I'm calling bullshit. This is the one answer that really did piss me off.
Yep.
And maybe Amira didn't have as much to do with it as Paloma did. But giving the excuse that Taylor immediately gravitated to the boys is absolute bullshit. We got
Bullshit.
feeds night one,
Hmm.
immediately after they entered the house, and Taylor went immediately to the girls, who then removed themselves.
Yep.
She went and tried to chat with the girls. The girls left her and
Hmm.
then kept leaving the room every time she walked into it. So Taylor, who's night one in the house, is trying to get somebody to talk game with her, to try to, like, she is trying to, like, let's do this, let's play Big Brother. She tried talking to Kyle, she tried talking to Joseph, she tried talking to Monty. She kept going, and they were actually talking. They were actually speaking to her. Michael was actually speaking to her. These girls, Taylor wanted to work with the girls. She came in wanting to work with, do an all girls alliance.
And
And the
here's what
girls from night one, oh, she said beauty queen. We saw the DRs from the round table
pageant
first
girl.
impressions. They were immediately making fun of the pageant girl thing, and night one started the impressions, started the
Hmm.
making fun of the stripes and the walks and all the things.
Yep.
Taylor walked across that lawn and took her place in the porter potty, and those girls, if you go back and watch the footage, they were disgusted by her walk when she was just trying to, like, be personable. Like,
It drives me nuts. And so
she never
Amira
had
was
a
like,
chance.
so like you said, Amira was like, yeah, well, she really appeared close with the guys at first. And so she said, and what she tried to do was rope Nicole into it too and be like, see, Nicole did the same thing. And it's like, you treated those two people very different ways. At the
Yes,
end of the day, you
yes,
treated them totally differently.
completely different.
And that's what really bothers
Nicole
me.
walked into the house, and her and Daniel saw they had the same haircut and immediately thought that equates best friends.
Which, but I don't even want to go there because it's disgusting. It's so frustrating. Like, what is even that thought? What even is that train of thought? And what bothers me too is that even before Paloma left the game, Amira approached Taylor. Well, not approached, but they were having a conversation. During the conversation, she was like, "So what's going on? I'm telling you that this is the information that I've been hearing." And Taylor's like, "That's not what happened. I was just trying to like." And she was basically saying that she was just trying to let Monty know, like, don't like get too testy with the girls. Like, we just like, because she was like, they kind of were. She dropped a little information that in some situations, I understand why people would be like, "Oh, that's some information you shouldn't have let
Right.
slip." Like, it's understandable, but the way they approached it was in a bullying matter where they were like, "Oh, she is just so mean and it's just the way she treats people is just unacceptable." They treated it like it was like her going against the girls and treating them like they were scum. She was like, "No, like I wanted to work with the girls. I
And
wanted
Monty
to be
keeps
with the
talking about
girls."
that. Monty keeps
Literally.
talking about how Paloma spun that in a completely wrong way, and that Paloma made a bunch of that stuff up, and the
Yep.
Taylor was actually telling the truth. And
Well, and what bothers me about that is after that conversation, well, everything bothers me about it. But so after that conversation, within a couple hours to maybe even an hour, she sat down with all of the girls in the Girls Alliance and she told them. And they go, "Oh, there is a fucking clip. There is a straight up clip where they all go, "Oh." And instead of saying, why don't we try and change this up? Maybe we'll add her to the alliance. They go, well, why didn't she tell us this before? It's too late now. She's going
she
home.
said, yeah, she said that. I remember them being like, "Oh man, if she would have only told us before, she could be sick." You haven't even voted yet.
And like literally, like that's just really what bugs the living shit out of me. This was like right after she had gone on the block, and Taylor was like, I don't know why this is happening. And literally, Paloma, and I'm not trying to bring Paloma back in, but she literally said almost word for word, like, it's too bad she still has to go. Everybody agreed. Nobody even challenged it. So I'm just going to challenge her to go back and look at that conversation because she needs to understand that she wasn't as nice or defending of Taylor. That's another thing that wasn't in the exit interviews, so I'm not gonna say that that's something she's saying now. But when she was in the house, right after she got nominated, and she was like, I've been defending her. I'm like, what do you mean? You maybe.
Mm,
And so she did make a comment in Sharon's interview. I want to make this clear that she said she did go to Daniel and Nicole after the big blow up and say that it was unacceptable and it was inappropriate. We don't know how that conversation went because the feeds were down. So
right,
unfortunately, we can't give you any of the real context behind that, and we
right,
can only go off of what she says. So here's my problem with that. I can believe some of what she says, but she's already misconstrued certain things, whether she knows or not. So I need to have a little more time to see what she's going to say about that moving
yeah,
forward before I make a full determination. But the way it was approached initially, I was genuinely unhappy because
yeah,
it was just deflecting the blame and putting it back on Taylor, which Sharon was making pretty clear shouldn't have been happening. And she
yeah.
did a good job, I think, literally right up until that last part where she was just like, yep. And I was like, you were so close. You were so close. But there's one comment, and we have discussed this a little bit beforehand. I am okay if we don't have opinions on this first, but I do want to bring up the fact that Sharon did also bring up racism and colorism in the house. And she did give Amira an opportunity to talk about that. And she said very bluntly, she was like, I didn't know about anything about colorism specifically in the house. She said Taylor didn't bring that to my attention, so I don't know how she feels. She was actually saying a lot of the right things where she's like, I want to know what Taylor feels. I'm not going to speak on this until I can get all of the information, which was good. Some of the stuff that I personally want to point out is that she said she kind of danced around whether or not she had conversations about colorism and race in the house. And it's like, race, yes, you
Yes.
did. Colorism, technically it did. The phrase did not come up, but stuff about colorism did. So it's something that I want to give her a chance to kind
She
of
had the
reflect on.
conversation with Nicole. Colorism was a part of this conversation, but it was not explicitly said.
Not
It sounded more
yes,
like that she was talking about Black women in general in the house. They did
right.
not seem to be on the same page because at
No,
this point Amira said, "Well, what about me? What about Jasmine?" To which I'm seeing both sides here. I think
of
Taylor's trying to
course.
communicate to her colorism, and Amira is hearing it as racism. And I think that they could not get on the same page about this because when she later then went and talked to the other girls about it, she
Oof.
did seem genuine. She even said in the beginning because Jasmine rolled her eyes and immediately started. She's
Yep,
like, "I'm." She goes, and Amira said, "I'm not having this conversation so we could talk trash about her. I'm having like a real conversation that
yep.
to see if there's any validity there."
That's
And
very important to remember too.
yeah, she said, "I'm bringing this up with y'all because I feel like maybe there's something there." She did
Yep.
have this conversation with me, and maybe I'm not seeing something. And then Jasmine then turned it into all about her and how she's never seen as a Black woman, and she's been dealing with this her whole life. And if there was any kind of issues in the house, then she would have seen it, but maybe she doesn't because no one considers her a Black girl.
And so I want to make sure that we note that Amira was not mocking Taylor in this
No,
conversation, but after she
the
was kind of
vibe
like,
was
yeah,
not.
whatever, like I don't care cuz Taylor at some point in the conversation was like, if I go, like I'm supporting you. I don't care what happened outside of this house. Like I or inside this house, I want you to know
Mhm.
you have my full support
Which
as a
Taylor
black
was
woman.
being very genuine about.
Straight up. And no, that's the part of the conversation with Amira and Jasmine that bothered me a little where she was like, well, whatever. And I was like, well, but again, it's in game mode. So it's something that she can also go back and reflect on because the rest of that conversation, like you were just saying, she was being open, being like, we have to have
I
this
mean,
conversation. Not have
surely,
to, but
I'm
she
not
was
saying this
talking
is the
about it
case.
openly.
I'm not saying this is the case with everybody because I don't see this happening with Daniel or Nicole by any means. But
Right.
I feel like if any of the other, or Jasmine, or even Indy, but I feel like if any of these house guests come out of the house, I feel, and this might be being optimistic, I feel like Amira is going to be the one that's going to see how genuine Taylor was that whole time, what a beautiful person she is inside and out, and how she held herself with such grace and dignity in the house. And she could be like, whoa, my head was completely twisted. I think if anyone that's ever going to be evicted out of this house, like the perpetrators of the Taylor bashing, is going to come out of the house and be able to say like, that is not what I thought at all, my bad. I feel like
Right.
I'm putting the most hope in Amira,
Yeah.
because I do feel like Amira is very smart, very
Mm-hmm.
bright.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that this house can sometimes give you tunnel vision? I call it
Oh
BB
yeah.
vision. I call it BB brain, where all everyone's truth is that she's this horrible evil person. And if everyone's telling you this, then there must be some truth to it. And we've seen it. This
Right.
this cognitive bias, this group think. We've seen it all season. It's kind of been the theme of the season. And I just feel like maybe that can cloud your judgment. And when you
Yep.
have nothing else in the house to do, or I don't know. I feel
I
I'm not making
understand.
excuses by any means.
No.
I'm just saying that I
You're
feel like
giving her a chance.
I'm giving her a chance here.
Because I think at the end of the day, when we're having conversations about this, because first of all, we are two white women, so we are always careful about how we have this discussion. And we're always open to not criticism, but comments about how we can make it better. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is give you
Yes,
the
I want to make it.
information
I'm
and not
sorry, and I
like,
feel like I always have to give
oh
disclaimers when we
no.
talk about this kind of stuff. But I said before we started, like I'm kind of iffy on bringing up the code. Like you did a beautiful job
Mm-hmm.
of stating what was said.
Thank
My
you.
thing is I just don't want to add or subtract
Mm-hmm.
from Taylor's perspective or Amira's perspective on this issue, because I have no place to have an opinion or
Yeah.
have a say or even a read on the situation. I could be a part of colorism discussions, absolutely, but only from an educational standpoint,
That's a really good
not
point.
not from a participant standpoint.
And maybe that's even where I can educate myself on like the comments that I just made. Not saying that they were necessary. I mean,
No,
if I can
you
educate myself, like it's like, and I'm not saying that you're like criticizing. It's one of
no.
those things where you have
No,
to
I
think,
think
you
that the
have to be
way I
open.
think we can relay this information, that this is what Taylor said, this is what Amira said. But I don't think when it comes to the topic of is there colorism in the house or is there not, that I have any place to speak
Well,
on either side of that spectrum.
I at least, and I agree. And I want to say before I
Yeah.
even start having full opinions on that, like in public, I want to hear from members of the BIPOC community first. That is
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
utmost importance.
absolutely.
These interviews are just coming out, so some of the people I really want to hear from, because they have been at the center of the public criticism of the cookout.
Whew.
I need
Yeah.
to hear from them first. Not
Yeah.
everyone, but there are specific people, and I don't mean to be mean. It's just some. For lack of, for full context, Kylan doesn't seem to be fully following the season. Maybe he is now, but at least to start, he wasn't. So I don't know what kind of comments he'll be making. It doesn't necessarily mean he won't. He's just one that I'm like, oh, I don't know if he'll come out. But Xavier's been making comments. Tiffany has been making comments. Um, Aza has been making some amazing comments. They've all been making amazing
Right.
comments. There's been, and everybody, I could really name, I mean, Chada and Derek F too. So everybody
Yes.
who has been part of it. But also, I'm telling you right now, I love what Brittany D'Angelo's also been adding. And so I'm not saying that that's the perspective I want to hear from this. I just want to say she
Hmm.
has been really good at calling out house guests, specifically Pooch, for trying to pretend that like things aren't
We
what they
don't
seem.
see everything.
He's
Yeah.
straight up calling people out, and I'm like, good for you, because that's really what we like. At the end of the day, she's not standing there and even like taking a side. She's like, we see the feeds. You can't tell us what we did and didn't see. She's not even taking a full side. She's just like, don't lie. And I
Right.
think now I want to hear, because also Tiffany's been watching the feed, so Tiffany knows everything. We already kind of know how Tiffany feels, but I think, and this is as of recording on Friday, I really want to see what she is thinking, what Xavier's thinking, what a lot of people, and it's not just them. There are tons of people, not just in the Big Brother community. There are people in all of reality
Xavier's thinking he's rich and he's off the
everything.
challenge.
Well, yeah, we will discuss that. Boy, no, but I think he's also had quite the interview with Sharon himself this
Yes,
week.
he
Though I
just.
think Shan kind of stole the show at the end, so I'll say.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to bring that up. If there's more for us to have on this conversation in the future, we will, but we have to be very careful about how we have this conversation because it's not necessarily our place to
It's
make
not our
assumptions and
conversation to
adjust in
have.
judgments. Nope, it's
Yeah.
not.
I've always said this, like I want to use my platform to speak on issues that need to be spoken and educate people, so that people of color aren't left with all the educating.
Hmm.
However, I will never speak on. I do not feel like the Amira and Taylor to whose truth is the most truth.
Yep.
That is something that I am ever entitled, or
Right.
I have no place in that fight, in that argument, that debate, and both of not saying that it's one side or the other. There could be
Right.
truths to both of them,
Oh,
um,
absolutely. The two sides
but
to every. I bring it up every freaking podcast. It's
yeah,
the two sides to every pan. I'm gonna make a
yeah,
T-shirt for merch at this point. The two sides to every pancake. But it's true. That really
yeah,
is because at the end of the day, one of the things that Amira brought up, not even brought up, just the one word that she brought up, perceived. It's all about perception, and
perceived, yeah,
like at the end of the day, no matter Big Brother or what, everything's going to be perceived differently. Sarah and I are
hmm
watching the same goddamn show. You don't think that we're not perceiving it differently? It
hmm
doesn't mean that we're not watching the same show. It doesn't mean that the same events aren't happening. We are looking at it from different ways. Doesn't mean we won't agree. Doesn't mean we won't disagree. That's where we have to look at it. And I think that's what the beautiful thing about this show is being able to be honest and have these
yes.
conversations. And it's not that these are fun conversations by any means, but I really want to make it clear that at the end of the day, she has really owned up to much more than Pooch and Paloma.
Like I told you, like we were texting about this, and I was like, if Paloma and Pooch are like a -5, then Amira's given me 3-4 energy. You know.
Yep, I agree.
Now,
Um,
you know what? I listened to that was at just at the first half. I listened to the second half. I will even give her like a 5-6 at this point.
I would give her a solid 5 at this point. I
Yeah.
think because of how she really handled it. It's just for some of, like, she didn't use the same phrasing as Pooch and Paloma, where she was, and I don't think she's denying that we saw anything that we didn't see or whatever. I think
hmm
it's just she doesn't quite know how much we've seen, and so some of the comments don't quite line up yet. So when she has a chance to see what has happened, that's going to be, and we've mentioned this on previous podcasts, that's going to be that's going to be the opinion that I ultimately base
Yes.
myself off of when it comes to Amira. So I
Yes.
have a little bit of like formed now, especially because we watched her, but now is going to be the most crucial time for her, and she can take her time. But as soon as she releases that first statement outside of this, that is what we're running with. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't mean to be blunt and rude about that. That is
No.
how the media works.
You're gonna
That
get
is
on
how
social
stuff
media.
like this works.
You're saying that the gates are open
Oh,
when you
and if
get
you
on
choose
social.
social media over a literal submitted statement to a media outlet first, that's your choice too.
Yeah.
So when outside of these exit interviews, the second she shows anything publicly, that is the opinion that we are going to start running with until she shows us otherwise. This is
And
just an initial analysis of how she came out of the house.
so this is the part of the podcast where I tell you, like, save this soundbite because we're gonna quote me later because you're gonna bring it up. I'm gonna tell you right now that
I'm literally writing down the mark because I am not forgetting this.
the next 4 evicted house guests will not be this level of energy, and they will be giving us ones to -8s.
Oh, we are going to be ripping some people. We are being kind this week, and it's because she deserves to be given a chance with and not that they don't deserve a chance, everybody does, but with how she has responded to the
hmm
criticism that she clearly understands she's facing.
And as far as offenders go, like the biggest offenders are still in the house, and once they leave, they are going to
She's
be
not.
Daniel and Nicole are going to be the absolute worst. The absolute
Boy, oh
worst.
boy. Those are going to be like 2 hours.
Oh
I
my
mean, we're
god.
already like, we're
Oh
already
my
like
god.
90 minutes in, but dear God, that's going to be ugly.
I don't think we've brought this up on any of our feeds, but oh my god. Okay, so who was it that told? Oh my god, who was this? I think it was Alyssa. Alyssa was talking about back when Daniel got pulled into Pose Pack, and he made anyway. He was crying about Paloma. He was crying about Paloma, and he went on this long stint about she was like his best friend in the house and everything. Alyssa, I don't remember who she told.
I think I
Off the,
know exactly what you're talking about, and I know,
she goes,
yes.
she didn't even like him. And I died because I'm like, please someone tell him. Because his entire identity in this house is that
It's
his best
Paloma.
friend Paloma was done wrong and she's out of the house. And I'm like, she didn't even like you.
You did it with the mind games, Taylor. The mind games. Don't do it to Nicole.
Oh my God.
Absolute ass. I cannot wait for him to be confronted with his bullshit. That's why I'm enjoying having this week where we can talk constructively about what Amira said. We will have a bit of a little interesting conversation about Pooch's comments in
Yeah.
a very short moment. Actually, that was what I was going to lead into. But I
Yeah.
do just want to give. I know we've been giving Amira kudos. I do want to give her
Because
kudos
this
for
is
being the
turning
first.
into, we're going on like our second 2 hour episode.
Who gives a shit? People can die about it. But we wouldn't have a full like episode like this if it wasn't necessarily stuff we didn't need to discuss because there
Right.
is
I mean,
so
not that I'm here
much
for boring weeks, but I mean, there's a lot of aftermath outside of the house. Like if you're out of the game, whatever, whatever. But
straight up.
um, yeah. But this week, it's like I said at the beginning, this has been one of my absolute favorite weeks of Big Brother in a while.
Me
Um,
too.
and
Um,
it's very interesting. I love that we didn't have a unanimous vote. I love that it was split. But
Especially for a blind side.
if we have to talk about irrelevant house guests, Pooch, he's doing some things. He's saying some things. He's not saying some things. But ultimately, he's giving Paloma 2.0.
Yeah,
Paloma. He's given us Paloma minus the doctor's note.
pretty much.
So
Oh wow! From the top rope! I love it! No, straight up. So it's really important that we talk about this because last week people are like, "Oh, where are we going to talk about Pooch?" All this week, I've been getting comments on TikTok. It's just been so difficult to get to the Pooch conversation. He sneakily got out of that house at a very
yeah.
good time because he has avoided a lot of the fans' criticism because of how these his exit interviews came out. He did an
Mhm.
exit interview on the winner circle, and I'm gonna give Cody props for the like. It's not the hardball interview that we got with Sharon by any means with Amira.
But that's like his bro. He
That's the
loves
thing.
him.
Exactly. The things when he was, and he didn't let him back down. Not three times. So we asked the initial question, and he gave him
Mhm.
two other opportunities to try and give different perspective. Like he straight up said, like, we know about the bullying and the potential microaggressions that were happening in the house. I want to give you an opportunity to
Why are
address
we
it.
still calling them potential microaggressions?
Because I should really not phrase it like that. It is just
But no, that
microaggression.
they are saying that though.
I
That
know,
is,
but it's
yeah. And
I
I'm
think
like,
it's
why are you
because of
still
the way it can
phrasing
be
it?
perceived, and that's why people don't want to be like it is a microaggression, because then people will be mad and be like, "Well, I can say this and not mean it that way." But guess what? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, that is the definition of a microaggression. Well, not the definition, but it is a major portion of a microaggression.
Hmm.
And Pooch is absolutely just denying. I have tweets. I have literal tweets I'm going to read from you guys. They are right in front of me. So, oh Jesus, what is today's date?
Today's the
Because I'm
29th.
the 29th. Okay, so this was during Wednesday's episode. And it was literally mid-episode. The timestamp on this is 8:36. So this is around the time that the fight happened. And he goes, quote, "Okay, this is tough to watch. I was not in the house for this situation, and I have love for Daniel and Nicole, like I do everybody in the house. But I absolutely disagree with them in this instance, and think Taylor was just truly worried about Nicole and her mom's situation. People start calling him out immediately after this, where people are like, you also, somebody he quote tweeted says, you also contributed to this conversation in week one by telling Daniel that Taylor is loud and would explode on the block. Straight up a microaggression, whether he wants to admit it or not. Saying a black woman would blow up without you having any reason to say it.
Zero
That is
interaction with her.
that is a microaggression at its finest. And he goes,
had zero interaction with her
and
previous to that statement.
he deflected. He goes, Taylor speaks her mind just like I do, which is the major reason why I'm sitting here tweeting and not in the house anymore. In all caps, he then goes, there's nothing wrong with speaking your mind, but it also puts a target on your back. Oh, sorry, that last part was Not a fan. And then he says in
All
a
of
tweet,
that could honestly have any kind of merit
yep.
if if there had been any conversation leading up to this point where Taylor had actually even spoken to him, much less spoken her mind.
Yeah, and also where she showed any level of like aggression. Because she, if anything, was
At
introverted
all.
and quiet. Like, was the aggression that she went to go with the guys? Was it that?
She spoke her mind. She
I just
spoke her
don't.
mind.
She didn't speak.
Okay.
But she didn't really speak much of her mind. She was quiet because she didn't want to offend
She
people.
didn't say anything.
Another one that he said, just like I never got loud, but people say I'd lose my mind and blow up leaving. It's like that is a different. First of all, no one said that.
No one
Second of
said
all,
that.
it's a different thing if we're talking about someone like you than when you're making an assumption about a black woman. It is a
No one.
totally
Not
different
only did no
situation.
one say that about him, but
Correct.
he literally spiraled the whole week he was on the blog that he volunteered for.
So yeah, so he is really just, and one of the things I can't remember if it's in this thread. It is. He was like, "Oh, I just missed the leftovers." I'm like, "Buddy, you wouldn't. The leftovers wouldn't have existed. We wouldn't have this." He is
Mm-hmm.
not. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like he is so oblivious to the situation. This wouldn't have existed. It wouldn't have even been fathomable because none of the things that happened after Pooch's eviction would have occurred. He doesn't understand that his eviction led to this, led to the discovery, led to them realizing all of this. So I'm sorry, maybe he just needs to be thankful that he was the reason this got seen,
Yep.
rather than playing boo hoo, I got evicted and I'm the same as Taylor. So she should be criticized for things like I should be. That's at least what I'm getting off of this, because he's like, well, we're
Yeah.
both loud, so we should be criticized for the same levels. And it's like, oh, fuck yourself. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
She's not loud
That's
in
how I
any
feel.
capacity.
Another one. This is the one. Oh, here we go. No, this is the one that made me all of the mad. Gonna take a deep breath, and then I'm
Okay.
gonna let you respond first before I do.
Oh my gosh, y'all! It's Angry Spice.
It's Angry Spice. Oh man, I have to get that in my bio now. Okay, and I quote: Taylor literally shit on me to the cams my entire eviction week, and I'm not mad in all caps about it at all. I think it's hysterical and part of the game. Props to you, Taylor. I want to know what the fuck he thinks he's talking about. What the fuck did he see that he thinks that happened? Right now. Bye-bye! See you later! I am floored that he had the timestamp on this, Sarah, is 8:58. The episode had not even ended. They had just formed this, and they had just informed her that they did not like the way she was being treated. And this is the response that he gives to his.
Your mic. I think you broke your mic. Nothing. I think you broke your mic.
I hit my mute button. That's what I did.
I'm sitting here. I'm like, babe. I think you broke
I
your
got so
mic.
mad I hit my mute button. Okay, so apologies for that. I gotta like turn my mic next time so I don't do that. I know you're supposed to have the mute button towards you, but like I just got all of the angry and just was like mute. That's the most beautiful thing for fucking YouTube and Twitter, TikTok. But anyways, so that's just like my irritation with this whole
Yes.
situation. His own ally Turner is up here defending Taylor for the bullying. He's admitted that he took part in it. He's had heart to hearts with her and be like, I am so sorry. He apologized. And in the same episode where his own ally is defending someone who was, and he is right, wrongfully treated, and he is totally defending his position. And he was like, she was just mean to me. Honestly sickening. Honestly sickening to me. I gonna be curious to see how this relationship goes outside the house, because I kind of don't know why he thinks that he like what is he? I don't know. You can jump in because I'm just gonna rant. I don't know what he's thinking.
I have nothing to say honestly because like I feel like again, like yeah, I mean, it's given Paloma minus the doctor's note. That's it. And to be honest, like, you know how I feel about that one too. And it is unfortunate because I was low on Pooch for my first initial assessment of him. The
Yep.
first week in the house, I said, you know what? His interviews came out. The preseason interview came out, and I was like, you know what? I could be wrong about him. And then
Me
the
too.
first week, and I'm like, you know what? I hope that was just like a slip, like he doesn't realize it was microaggression. I hope that was not it, because I didn't see much else after that, and he seemed pretty chill. He didn't seem super obnoxious. And then week 2 happened, and I was like, yeah,
You're
I was.
giving me the best segue to my next tweet because he literally joked about the fact he was like, yes, I know that wanting Taylor out of the house was a micro. Or actually, let me rephrase. He goes, haha, yes, IK, me wanting Taylor out of the house because of microaggressions and not because I made an all guys alliance. And knew Taylor was one of the strongest women in the house. It would be extremely hard to get out of the
The
game.
strongest. I'm so fucking sick of, and this is happening in the house too. She is a strong woman. She is a strong player. We've seen that she has potential to be a competition threat. Has she won anything? No.
Nope.
Does she have any alliances? I mean, now, but before. No. So if she has no one in the house and she has no power, then tell me what about her makes you think that she's the strong threat in the house?
I just love how you keep setting me up for tweet after tweet after
I'm
tweet.
telling you, I'm just.
It's just perfect
We're
because
just
this
so.
tweet,
What is the term? Like copacetic?
I don't know. All I can think of is serendipity, but that's not
There we
it.
go. It's serendipitous.
Is it? Well, then that's beautiful, beautiful.
I think
So
on the
somebody
a side note though, I do think that I might be the only one here. The lights just turned off, and I'm kind of.
we running long. All right. So we do have I'll read this last tweet and then we'll move on to questions so we can talk about the challenge
Okay.
for at least a little bit. So the last one though, because I cannot walk away without reading this one. This is the most not the most important, but this is incredible because it leads out of what you were just saying. Somebody commented and he quote tweeted it. They go, yeah, okay, Taylor isn't even good at comps. I don't know about that, but they were kind of pointing out that she hasn't won anything. So I'm gonna disagree with that. But they were like, oh man, the fact that nobody wants Michael out knowing that he's a comp beast is very telling. Make it make sense. And he goes, truly don't think you need to be great at competitions to be labeled as a strong competitor. Me and Taylor both compete for a living. Myself as a football coach and Taylor as a high level pageant contestant. Strong competitors just have a great drive to want to win. And I can't name them off the top of my head. If I could, I would, but I'm just saying there are a
Let's
lot of
be
people
honest
who
here.
don't fit that bill.
Pooch wasn't a fucking threat either. He was
No,
giving no
he
threat
thinks he
energy.
was. He's
The
still
only
convinced that
the
he
only
was.
reason he was a smarter eviction than Taylor was because of the guys' alliance. Taylor had no one. It makes more sense for the girls to put the numbers on their side by getting rid of one of the guys in the opportunity. That's how that made sense. He was not a threat. If we're going to target any of the threats of the guys, that would be Joseph, a Monty. Like,
Yep,
those are going to
a
be the guys.
legitimate threat.
A legitimate threat. Kyle's a social threat. He could
Totally.
possibly be a competition threat. But Pooch was not a threat. Pooch was a number for the guys. Taylor
At,
was
at
not a
best.
Taylor was not a number for either side of the house. She was a free agent.
Yep. And it's just for him to try and compare himself to Taylor is so insulting.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's just going around on TikTok like defending it too, like does he not see that we're getting tagged in his shit? Like some of these videos are going to be coming out on TikTok, so he's got to be prepared.
Yeah.
We're buckling down. We're getting everybody. We're getting caught up because this was a fucking wild week. But I think he thinks he escaped a lot of the criticism
Mm.
and that he's kind of getting a little bit of a skate by, and he's in for it.
Yeah.
I think. Well, he's been in for it, and I think he's been dealing with it on Twitter. When we get this on TikTok, it'll be another story. So we have some questions to end this segment with, this 2-hour Big Brother segment. So the question that I pose to us every single week is, who do we think is going out the door this week, and who do we want to see go out the door this week? I think the obvious answer is I want to see either Daniel or Nicole. I don't have a preference. As long as it's one of them, I'm chill. I think it will.
I feel like it's going to be Alyssa.
Honestly, I was gonna say it was gonna be Nicole, and I just don't know if that's gonna be the move. But I think you
I
have a good point.
I think it's going to be Alyssa. I think that I want to see Nicole leave, and I feel like if there's any other week that I don't know, I think actually Daniel. I'm going to take that back. I want to see Daniel go this week. I feel like, I mean, no matter what, the leftovers have the numbers to keep Taylor safe. I feel like the leftovers have. I will feel more comfortable with it next week.
Yeah, it's got to be solidified this week for sure.
I will feel better about the leftovers using putting Taylor and Nicole up on the block to get rid of Nicole next week.
Yep,
Statistically, on a numbers scale, the
I
numbers are
agree.
just slightly too close for comfort right now for me. And I feel like if you put Indy and Alyssa up, I think if the leftovers want to target Alyssa, want Alyssa out of the house, which they do, she goes. If they want to leave their options open and maybe make Taylor more comfortable with a backdoor situation for Nicole afterward, um, there's a good shot there, especially with Nicole's behavior in the house. We could actually see a unanimous vote for Nicole to go.
I could definitely see that. We have a question from an anonymous. I say anonymous just because they didn't disclose whether or not they wanted
Oh, okay.
their name to be out there. So it's just an anonymous follower of ours. They have left us the question that is how or wow, I didn't even get the first word right. Let me restart that. Okay, so the question is, as much as we love the Leftovers Alliance, do you want the old school alliance and the Leftovers Alliance to have power shifts so it keeps us on our toes? I have a very firm opinion on this, and I don't judge if people vary from it, but I don't want to see any power shifts. I am sick of the treatment that certain people in the house have exhibited. There's 3 people that as soon as they're going out, I don't mind once we see if we can see some stuff shift around. But I need Nicole out,
I
I need Daniel out, and I need, oh fuck, I just lost the last one. Fuck,
You need Daniel,
Jasmine.
Nicole, Jasmine, and Indy.
Well,
Um,
Indy's the 4th, but I think
yeah,
Indy at that point, she's such a wild card that at that point she's an easy out that 4th week, and that things can start shifting around that week.
I've never been. I okay. There is one Big Brother camp that I stay firmly put in, and that is Camp Good Feeds. If I have good feeds, I don't give a shit. I don't give a
Eh,
shit. But I will say this: it is to me unprecedented the amount of ugly we have in the house. We have seasons like BB15. You have problematic seasons. I could sit and list
19
them
and
all day.
21 as well.
19, 20, 21. But when it's when it is a group, right? And it is because normally it's the one or you have the one or two villains. Not even we're not talking good villains like Rachel Riley,
No, like
Janelle, whatever.
legitimate villains.
Legit villains, okay? But when you have like a conglomerate of them. It is not enjoyable to watch. I need to see them have their comeuppance. I need to see them humbled. I need to see them brought to their knees. And if that means that the same alliance retains power week after week until it's just them, then so fucking be it.
Yep.
But I don't want Nicole, Daniel, even Indy. I don't want them in jury.
Nope.
I don't want them getting paid for this time.
I don't want
I
Jasmine to get paid for this time. I can't emphasize how hard,
Because
like,
you could probably list on one hand how many Big Brother players, like off the top of your head, remained relevant pre-jury.
mhm. Oh, absolutely. And they
And
don't
I don't need any
deserve
of
the
these. I don't
relevance.
need any of them relevant. I don't.
Nope. The last thing I'll say on this conversation, and we'll move on to the challenge, is when Amira was leaving last night, Nicole made a comment that drove everybody, including myself, insane that watches Amazing Race, and she was like, "I'll see you on the Amazing Race," and all of us were like, "The fuck you will!"
No.
You absolutely will not. You won't even get
What's his name?
spit.
Bill?
Oh, Phil Kogan.
Phil. Yeah, he ain't gonna. He don't even like Big Brother.
No.
He doesn't even like Big Brother players on there now. Like,
So the only couples that they like, so I think I mentioned this to you in the live. The only couples that they've ever had from Big Brother go on there, or from any of the other shows, they do Rob and Amber, beloved, beloved. Jeff and Jordan, beloved. Next season that's coming up in September, Derek and Claire, beloved.
yes,
I'm sorry, Nicole and Amira, hated, like
not happening.
despised. And I'm not saying like Amira's hated like as a general human being, but she's definitely facing some criticism. That team would be despised. No, it wouldn't even be good television. It would be horrible. I don't even know why they think they'd be good
Did
television.
you
So,
see? Well, have you seen at least the clip? I know you haven't seen Rob's, but Rob Sesternita asked her this question,
ooh,
and they kind of laughed about it or whatever. But her response was essentially like, "Yeah, that sounded good when I first met her, but she's got a temper, and like she said like no, she said something about her being emotional or whatever. Like I don't want to misquote or anything, but she basically said like." As I played the game with her, she's not somebody I'd really want to be in that high pressure situation with.
which is smart, and I think that's where we have to give her that credit because Nicole
Yeah.
is so full of herself that she thinks that
Oh
she
my
would be
God.
that. I'm so proud of us to for getting this conversation ended 5 minutes under 2 hours. Let's go! It's Challenge USA time. This will
Challenge.
be a shorter, especially because Sarah hasn't seen the full episode, so we
I've
were on live.
I've
Um,
seen the full episode, but yeah, I was
we were
hosting the
on
live
live.
during it. Yeah.
So, speaking of Alyssa's causing chaos in the house.
Oh my Lanta.
Oh dear fucking god, do we have a conversation? We just had an insane conversation about Big Brother. We've got an equally insane conversation to talk about for the Challenge USA. Because Alyssa and Kyland exacted revenge this week. And I'm gonna have to do this part, like I'm gonna jump around to this revenge topic in multiple different ways because this was wild. This was not what I was anticipating this early on. I knew there was gonna be a point where they push at each other, especially because we've seen technically they may have or may have not unfollowed and refollowed each other on social media. And we'll get to Xavier's comments after in a little bit, and that's going to explain a lot, I think. But so yeah, so I'm just gonna say right off the bat, I thought Alyssa and Kyland as a pairing was scary in very different manners of the word. Like scary, like we knew they were not the best of friends in the Big Brother house. They didn't hate each other, but they were not each other's best friend. And then the fact that they're both pretty cutthroat, and it's like, so if they could succeed, they were going to be somebody like you could tell it was going to go either one way or the other. They were either going to flop majorly or they were going to dominate and do something absolutely insane. We got the latter. Got the latter for sure.
Did we?
Did we ever? And really, they came in with the common goal of getting Xavier out for different reasons. Kyland is still salty about not winning Big Brother 24. He is still salty.
Kyland was probably the least graceful exit of the BB23 cast.
Oh, I'd say he was by far the least graceful exit.
I'm sorry, not during the show. When we're talking about post-show interviews, taking ownership, things like that. I think that I mean, it wasn't awful.
It wasn't great.
But it wasn't great.
It wasn't the worst we've seen.
It was giving Amira.
Yeah, it was giving 5. It was giving 5 vibes.
Yeah.
Like owning up to some things and not others.
Right, where Xavier was like, whoops.
Oh, like, tons of stuff. He was like, my bad here, my bad there. That's
but he did not leave the challenge with the same energy. Okay.
Well, and then it's not even a spoiler because of course you have watched. So we're talking, I think, just talked about it just now. I think I spoiled it before you did. They got revenge on Xavier. And so it's watching this, Sarah, I cannot wait for you to go back and rewatch and just get the full sense because I did the same thing. My first watch was when we were live together.
Yeah.
I just rewatched it last night with my boyfriend, and I think I got 3 times as hyped, and it was still insane.
Yeah. The comp was insane. The intensity was insane. The comp was so good, but I feel like it was that penalty. Their biggest mistake was taking that penalty the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
um, because that was all the time that they needed. Um,
We'll talk
but
about that a little later. I'll get into the
yeah,
nitty gritty with that. Um, but for real, and we'll talk about, there's so much dynamic that went around the decision that they made.
yeah.
We have to mention the fact that they ended up winning the daily challenge though, and now Kyland is actually tied with both Angela and Tyson for 2 daily challenge wins so far
Hmm.
this season. So those are the top 3 competitors that we have
Oh my
right now
god,
in
that
terms of.
challenge made my stomach drop.
I couldn't. Oh man, just like, and
I
TJ,
was like,
TJ got a kick out of just being like, "See ya."
I would have piddled the whole way down.
I would have been like Cash, where my jaw dropped. I was like, ah, grabbing onto Enzo. So, for those who, just for a quick recap, this was just
I'm
a
here for
trivia
it.
challenge where they were standing at the top of a building on a ledge, and they had to answer trivia questions until they got something wrong. If they answered it wrong, they were sent bungeeing, I guess is what we're gonna say.
Yeah.
Like, just all the way, they were dropped off the building. Um, and they did 2 rounds. Well, they did 3 rounds. They had a regular round where they would determine the second 2, which would be a losers round and a winners round. The losers and winners rounds were obviously based on first round performances. So the losers round was consisted of Derek and Sarah, Danny and Kira, and David and Justine. David and Justine ended up losing the entire challenge, which I felt really bad for David, genuinely, because you could see he was just trying so hard, not even just to impress Justine, but like he's starting to gain some confidence in himself, and he wants to really prove to people that he can compete. And you could tell that really hit him hard. But there were some fucking funny answers in this. I'll mention though, before we talk about some of the stuff, the winners bracket was Angela and Dominic, Azza and Ben, and then Alyssa and Kyland. And Alyssa and Kyland were the ones that ended up winning. Had a couple thoughts from this challenge, beginning with the fact that one of the couples that I didn't mention, which was Leo and Desi. Desi had some of the best confessionals because she's so witty, and when she's talking about Leo's obsession with cats, which everybody's been talking about, she just came up with so many one-liners. She's just one of my favorite people of all time. But what got me was when I don't know if you caught it, but a Catwoman question came up, and Leo was just so amped. He's like, "Ah, yeah, cat!"
I got this one. I got this one.
Oh my god. Well, so something that was mentioned in the episode that I want to bring up is people, and I think Desi said this, is people don't want to be partners with Leo because he doesn't come off like he's taking things seriously. And while I understand, I don't think like I think this is Leo's way of taking things seriously. And I mean that in the kindest way. Like,
Hmm.
anybody who watched The Amazing Race, his season, he and his brother, it was Leo and Jamal, and they were known as the Afghanimals, and they drove everybody motherfucking insane every season they were on, and they were really damn good. And that's the
I
thing,
love
is they
that
always,
name though.
right? Well, they're so sweet, and they came from Afghanistan. Like,
Yeah.
they are literally so freaking pure. And one of the things is that they drove people nuts on The Amazing Race with was that they were like happy-go-lucky, fucking around, like they didn't give a shit. They were like, "Why aren't you taking this seriously?" They're like, "It is a television show that you're on. You are competing for $1 million on TV. You're not going to go have fun." So that was just one of the things I personally want to bring up. And I'm just going to say, Sarah has given me a reason to not like her anymore. I wanted to give her a chance. Boy, she is a bitch. She is a fucking bitch, and I do not like her. When she was mocking Derek for getting a Catwoman question wrong, and she was like, "Shut up, Derek. I'll handle this from here." I'm like, how would you feel if you were spoken to like that? Like, genuinely, if the roles were reversed and he was talking to you like that because you
Hmm.
got a question that was supposed to be in your wheelhouse and you just didn't know? That's She literally said, "I got this, Derek. Just stand there and keep your mouth shut." Go fuck yourself.
Oh my gosh.
That bothered me to no end. I don't think
And
she's a bad person, but her attitude rubs me the wrong way. I wouldn't get along with her in real life. I think I've mentioned that before. I was not really a fan of her on on Survivor Cagayan. I was not a fan of the fact that she won Game Changers. I didn't despise her on either season, but there were plenty of other people I liked over her. And her actions toward Derek are reason why. Or just example A of why I don't like her.
I
So,
want to do some back. What is her last name?
Lucina. I always want to say Lancia because I know a Lancia. But yeah, so she is. I just have personal opinions from Survivor. And again, I think it's important to remember that with Survivor and the challenge, we don't get the full context like we do with Big Brother. So
Yeah.
it drives me nuts.
I mean, again, like my first perception of her was like, oh my god, like yeah, she's here to play, blah blah blah, and then and then people in my comments were like, oh no, we don't like her, and I remember asking you like, why don't we like her? Because she just seems like. But again, it's all like we don't have.
We don't really have the full context, but she is very open about like being very strict with her, and there's nothing wrong with being strict with your beliefs. Let me be very clear about that. It's
Right,
more
right,
about
right,
she's
right.
like not willing to change certain viewpoints from what it seems, and it's just very hard. And I'm not talking about social
This was
viewpoints. I'm
not a
just talking
good.
about general. She is a tough cookie to change her mind.
Yeah,
She
this
is
was
set
not a
in her
good look
ways.
for her. Whereas that same kind of energy looked good for her the first week when it was only directed at the game. Like, I'm here to win, I'm here to play, blah, blah, blah. So, like,
Yep.
if that's her personality, that's her personality. But when it kind of translates to a social aspect like that and just interactions with other people, that's when it becomes problematic.
And I want to say before moving on to this next part, because we're going to talk about like how this whole elimination challenge went down. Something that I think again about like how we're talking about portrayals on shows is she like we can only look at Survivor in a certain aspect because I don't even know. Let me rephrase that. My boyfriend and I were talking about like who has the most difficult challenge coming on here, and we're like obviously Love Islanders because they just have none of this under their
I
belt.
think the Amazing Racers, though.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's pretty close, but I think the Amazing Racers have the challenge stuff under their belt where they are able to at least run and
True.
compete with that kind of stuff. That's the only
True.
reason. They are a very close. They are very close. Otherwise,
Good
so
point.
you're looking at the big differential is like, who has the edge? Is it Survivor or is it Big Brother? And in my opinion, it's
It's
actually Big Brother.
definitely not Big Brother.
I think it is because I think part of the survival thing with Survivor is you are starving, your brain isn't functioning like it normally is when you're in a
Uh-huh.
normal setting, and so it's easy to overthink things. I think it's more difficult, but when you're translating it to the challenge, I think it's there's more. I totally disagree with me, dude. I do not mind. I just think that
I know. I'm not trying to like immediately. I'm trying to
oh no,
listen. Like
yeah,
I'm trying to get in the same wavelength so I could like try
it's
to
it's
understand.
because when you're on Survivor, like obviously with Big Brother, you have nots, and you're living in like a compound, so it's a
I
little
don't think the
different. But like
have-not situation has ever been as relevant as it is this year. Like
literally, and they're not showing much of it. They're just
they're
showing
not
how it's
showing
getting
much of it,
picked.
but like have-not is such an irrelevant twist now. It's just kind of like we do it because we have to do it. But
Yep.
this season we have the exception because holy shit, do they make it the end of the world?
They're like, I can't be on Slob. I'm like, please just get out of this. So, I mean, I think it's a fair conversation, and maybe I'm not sold on Survivor. Like, I think Big Brother has the edge because of like the challenge aspect. I think survivors have more difficult challenges though, which gives them a little bit more of an edge in the challenge aspect. But I think in the social aspect, Big Brother has more time to socialize, more like they were in the house for depending on the person up to
Mm-hmm.
almost 100 days, where max that you're on Survivor is 39, and that's if you're getting to the end.
True.
So I don't know. I think it's actually maybe I'm glad you're like, oh, I want to think about that because it is a good debate. I was automatically sold on that, but like it is something to think about.
I think
Um,
honestly if we're looking at like the game layout and the types of challenges or types of competition and how the show is really based, I would think that out of all of them, the Amazing Race would be the most prepared. Big Brother, pie eating competitions,
the least.
Bowlerina, Slip and Slide.
But they come in like they are challenge like not like the challenge, but they're like challenge experts, and it's like
Yeah,
you're not.
no,
Survivor definitely has the edge on that one
you did a pie
hundred
eating competition. And I'm not saying that some of these comps aren't really hard, But spinning around till you get dizzy and trying to bowl and hit over 3 fucking pins is not the same as scaling a 32-story building and doing math equations on the way down on a bungee cord. Like,
Or jumping onto a giant spinning tire machine in the air
no
and
shit. So that's why I'm
it's
saying, like to come in with that level of confidence when really your experience with competition is occasionally you would get picked to do something physical in the Big Brother house, because let's be honest, not every house
the
guest does all
wall
the
is about it.
competitions. Not every house guest competes in every competition, and not every competition's physical. So for you to come in with that level of confidence when you basically have Big Brother challenges look like shenanigans arcade games compared to the
Oh,
challenges.
straight up. Straight up.
It's like leaving the Big Brother house and saying I'm fucking ready for American Ninja Warrior.
Oh my god, right? And almost though,
No,
it's
bitch, you were
almost
on Wipeout. It's not the same.
right. Oh my god. Perfect comparison. But like and to this point, I think that this was the perfect competition if
Now, wait, wait, wait,
Alyssa and
wait.
oh, go for it.
Not that I think any of these legends are like, and I mean, I'm not trying to be cocky and saying that they're listening, but on the off chance that they are, let me just
Hello?
say that this is not dogging Big Brother contestants,
No.
because my fat ass could definitely not do a lot of those things.
I
But
couldn't do
second,
slip and slide to save my life. I
but the
couldn't do
second, I mean, I got thunder thighs. I think I could hang with that one. But um, but when I'm looking at these things, like Angela, I said she was just cast in the wrong show. Angela's made
Oh,
for
for
comedy.
sure.
Derek X, he's made for, like, he could be absolutely. We saw it. He was a Beto beast because he's like an NBA player going in and playing in the kiddie courts.
That's why I got
That's
pissed off
what
at
this
Sarah's
was. Like,
comment. That's why I got pissed off at her comment because this competition was actually built for not like they intentionally did it, but it was like
no,
of all weeks for Alyssa and Kylan to get paired up and to have something to work on together,
yeah,
this was the challenge for them to
yes.
really do this. And it's just like boo fucking who? Like I just just don't like every challenge is going to be built for other people and I think like that's what bothered me with Sarah is she was just like Derek is supposed to be smart, and I answered a question right, and he didn't. And it's like, congratulations, round of fucking applause.
Yeah, you're also standing on a fucking ledge that the bottom's gonna fall out at any moment in time. I'm sorry. I probably wouldn't remember my own fucking birthday up there.
Also, like and I'm not even saying like, oh well, it's good that she has different training than Derek does when it comes to being under pressure in those kinds of
Yeah.
situations. She's a fucking cop. He is not. So can we really? Can we really? He doesn't have the same capability that she does to control her thoughts in that situation, and she can criticize him for that. And there's no saying that like, oh well, maybe it would have been more helpful. But who gives a shit? Who gives a anyways? Anyways, so with Kylan and Alyssa winning this, they
I
are
don't
now
think the
trying to
cleaning
decide.
crew. I don't think the cleaning crew, by the way, this person. I don't think that they've ever seen like an employee here.
And they're
And
like, oh
she's,
shit.
who is this homeless looking woman? Does she work here? Is she
the
squatting?
adventures of the adventures of the unwicked. Yeah, I just can't talk. We're done. Goodbye. That's the end of the podcast, everybody. You can just log off now. We are wrapping up the conversation, but we still have a very important challenge to discuss before we
Yes.
do.
Yes.
So right now, leading into that conversation, Alyssa and Kylan are faced with this predicament. They've known that they both individually want to get Xavier out, and they start discussing it. They're like, well, is this the right time? We want to make this big move. Is it too early? It is a hardcore conversation that they are having. Tyson and Angela are approached about it. They're cool with it. They don't want to get the blood on their hands, so they're like, you do you. But when they get to the challenge, so they had pretty much determined at that point, even with David and Justine's blessing, that was pretty much what the game plan was going to be. They were all riled up. Get to the challenge. Derek looks at it and he looks to Alyssa and he goes, no, don't do it. And you could see Alyssa's heart poop her pants right there. Like literally, she was like, no. I think we got an even more extreme reaction from her from this challenge because of the fact that Derek was like, don't put Xavier in this. He will destroy it. That was straight up what he said in his confessional, too. As soon as the competition started, he goes, I do not want to see Xavier come back. If he comes back, it's going to be for blood and it's going to be bad. And I don't think people understand because he hasn't been put in this position before. He was
Mm-hmm.
never nominated on Big Brother. Or no, he was nominated. Sorry, that's a lie. It just forget me talking. He got nominated like 5 times in a row, I think, actually. So that's just Abby being tired and ignorant. But
I didn't
anyways,
catch it.
so what did I say? So yeah, so they still went with it. And Alyssa ended up blaming it on Shan without using Shan's name, but she was like, there are people that brought up to us that one of the partners is being shady and like was basically trying to paint it on Shan rather than Xavier, I believe, if I caught that right. And Shan
Yeah.
was like, are you absolutely kidding me? You are just cowards. They
They were.
both pretty much called them cowards. And Xavier was like, they are stuck on Big Brother 23. But Alyssa was like, well, he did the same thing to me, so welcome to the club. Which, I mean, it's an interesting move this early in the game. We will see if it pans out. So the challenge that they had to do was breaking panels of glass, crawling through this little mechanism, and then um, picking up puzzle pieces, pushing them through, and then solving a puzzle. Now, the big key here is that you got a 5-second penalty for every pane of glass that you broke that was not yours. So you were each
Right.
assigned a color. Someone was, I believe it was, one was black and one was white. And you had to solely go with the color that you were. You get the penalty. The penalties ended up being 50 seconds for Xavier and Shan because Xavier did not give a flying fuck. He was so confident. She was confident in him too, from what we could see. They were confident that they could beat that time penalty and that they were good enough at a puzzle that they would be able to beat David and Justine. Totally underestimating them. And honestly, I think
I mean,
that's
I
why
think I did too.
Oh, I did too. I
Yeah.
absolutely did too. I'm not even gonna pretend that I'm like, because like, yo, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was fucking shocked. We were
I
talking Big
know.
Brother.
We
We
were-
turned away. We were like, what?
We were on a live together, and you were screaming, and I was on a delay, and I'm like, what?
And it pans out. Oh my god, I always feel bad when that happens too, because that happened with a couple football games with my boyfriend, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Not to spoil, but yeah. So the delay that Xavier and Shan ended up taking was devastating because David and Justine only had 10 seconds. So that just means that only 2 incorrect panels were broken. So they went from finishing grabbing the puzzle pieces last to starting their puzzle first. And they started their puzzle with I think 30 seconds ahead of maybe closer to 20, but between 20 and 30 seconds ahead of Shan and Xavier. And that absolutely made the difference. And can I just say, David's reaction was absolutely fucking everything. I don't know if you caught it, but he was, first of all, he was hyped because he was going in. He was like, I need to prove to them that I'm a competitor, that I'm not just on Big Brother because I was just kind of brought on. I want to show that I actually can compete. But then after, it wasn't about himself. He made it about Justine. He was like, no, you did that too. You did that. And then when they were in their interviews, he's like, you want to know something? This girl has a better resume than people who have been on the challenge for 20 fucking years. Let's talk about that. And I'm like, I have goosebumps talking about it because I just had
it was a
shift.
moment.
Oh, I had a shift in everything because it's not that we didn't know he had this pure heart on Big Brother. He just didn't play Big Brother as well as other people could play Big Brother.
It's kind of weird too because well, people are like, why is he screaming at her? Why is he? Because the energy was there, but the mic wasn't really there and everything. But I'm like, no, he's hyping her up. He's hyping her up. He's hyping her up. Because I've talked about his cadence and his delivery and stuff. We talked
All
about
the
this on the
time.
live, that his cadence and delivery can come off very cynical, snobby, things like that at times. But then whenever he flips it over, you get to see the side of him that I really enjoy. That was a really cool moment.
I loved it. And honestly, but
holy shit, to take out 2 giant competitors like that in just one fell swoop.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not like he just beat any team. And it's not like he was just like, yeah, me and Justine. He beat Big Brother 24's winner, the winner from the cookout.
Yep.
And Shan, who was just masterfully blindsided on Survivor. But it's just it's 2 of the strongest competitors coming into this. They just knocked them out. And it was beautiful, and neither of them were graceful about their exit, to say the least. Now, I understand that they weren't happy about the position they
I
were put
mean,
in, but
do we
like,
want to say X wasn't graceful, or was he just like trying to like this is not that big a deal?
it also could have just been the way they edit it, though. Like,
Right.
really, to be fair. So, but
I'm
the
rich,
way it was
bitch.
put together was not great. Well, he literally said, I have the quote, I'm still rich, y'all broke, and y'all are stupid. You
Yeah.
could have just, for me, could have just changed the end, like, said something different, like, I'm not worried
He
about
what?
it.
He
It's
what?
just like to call them stupid. I'm like, oh. Beautiful. But he also called them petty little bitches.
Yeah.
Um, and he was like,
Yeah.
Survivor's gonna take you out. Azo literally was like, pretty sure Xavier's gonna leave the group chat after this. I'm gonna bet. And she was like, oh, the tea is hot. Like, her reaction. I love her so much on this show. Aza is just, I mean, I loved her on Big Brother 23, but she is just, I love her on this show too. She is quite a personality. So, to finish up this segment, we're going to do a little bit of discussion about Shannon and Xavier's exit interview with Us Weekly again.
Oh, I know
Um,
nothing about this, so this is news
boy,
to
oh
me.
boy!
I'm gonna
Boy,
plug
oh
in
boy!
though, because
Well,
I'm about to die.
oh,
Okay, you go ahead.
so let's actually, I was going to start with Xavier, but let's start with Shan real quick. So Shan was super critical of what's been happening with Alyssa and Kylan and their decision. And I have full quotes that I'm just going to read off for you, and she rips them. And I quote, I don't think Alyssa and Kylan are very smart players. I just don't think that they are. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this was very short-sighted. They were blinded by revenge and blinded by pettiness. I get it. This was former castmate of yours. He won. We all at some point were thinking X should not win the challenge, or win this challenge. But in terms of Big Brother's survival and longevity in the game, this just didn't make sense. She then went on to poke fun at not poke fun. She went on to criticize them individually. Starting with Kylan, she said, I think Kylan is a user. I think he is a manipulator. I just don't really enjoy him as a person, and I've been honest with him about that. That I don't want to be your friend. She straight up said she does not want to be Kylan's friend at
Who
all.
was this that said that?
This is Shan.
Okay.
So Shan is out the door with that. As for Alyssa, she says, and Alyssa, I don't believe her as a person. I think she's always playing Big Brother. And I think she's got a lot of issues she's got to work through in her life that she just hasn't had time to do. Like, that's a low blow. I'm just saying. I can support, like, I can support criticizing people and like saying to a point where you're like, oh, like Kylan's a manipulator, because if you're gonna have certain things to defend, like, yeah, he's shown that he can manipulate people. It's just your opinion if you think that's like the fullest truth or not. But what bothers me is when she just said, and I'll read again about Alyssa, I think she's got a lot of issues she's got to work through in her life that she just hasn't taken the time to do. That's crossing a line for me.
Yeah,
That had nothing
that's
to
too
do with this
much.
game. Like, you could still even be frustrated with something like that, but to air that out like that, especially when she's not there to defend herself, because an exit interview, you're not sitting there where she's there to be like, well, I'm going to respond. So she's
Yeah.
got a chance to respond now, obviously. I haven't checked to see if that happened, because this exit interview happened yesterday. It's been such chaos. But she finished by saying, there's no friendship for me moving forward with these two, but X, I hope the best for you and Alyssa going forward, because I know you guys will be really close. Xavier invoked Dr. Will when he was discussing this, and Dr. Will responded. So I want to give you a little bit of that, because this is fun. And this is how we'll wrap up this week, with a little Big Brother into the challenge. So Xavier's kind of talking about how he feels about being taken out, and about his emotions about being taken out with the people he was taken out by, people being his friends. He goes, I would like, and this is a full quote, I would just like to try and take out of Dr. Will Kirby's book, which is where he viewed, sorry, I gotta restart. I'm reading too fast. Jeez, my eyes are tired today. All right. I would like to take out of Dr. Will Kirby's book, which is where he viewed people he went on these shows with more as co-workers than as friends. I think this is going to be important for people to remember moving forward, because this quote continues. So while Shan made her comment, I think it's important to hear what Xavier ultimately says. I I think this is the back to the quote. I think that's probably an approach I'm going to take similarly moving forward. I don't find them to be bad people. And I'm not going to address anything they're dealing with personally because I think everyone has their own battles that they're fighting, and I'm not going to undermine anything that they could be going through. So I'm just going to say I understand he made that comment, but boy, Shan should just not have brought that up. That's just
Oh.
wrong. So I don't really know what she was going for, but that's not Christy of her for a pastor. But I continue. The quote ends with, but I would say my relationships with them moving forward, I would just approach them more like a coworker type of relationship. I'm not here praying for your downfall, and I'm not here hating on you or anything. We come in, we go to work, we do what we do. You go home, I go home. Dr. Will responded, and then we'll have a little chat. But Dr. Will is totally on board with what Xavier says, and he says Xavier gets it. Unscripted television is not an occupation, a vocation, or a vacation. It is a job.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's an interesting perspective.
It's not one that I could have personally,
I agree,
but
but I
that's just,
understand where they're coming from.
I mean, I have a hard time not making deep connections with the people I work with in my real job. So, let alone something that when you're living in the same quarters and close quarters working with and day in and day out and it's 24/7 kind of deal.
Yep.
I don't know that I could ever turn it off that way. That would, I mean, that is, I can't say that I don't respect it. I get it. I absolutely get it. Um, I just hope that the people that he maintains these coworker relationships with know that about him and don't
I
hear
know.
this and feel hurt.
Because if he didn't make this clear to them before the exit interview, then this has to
Yeah.
be a big slap in the face. And like, I have
To the
a
other
lot of
cookout
respect for
members
him.
and yeah.
Like, I have a lot of respect. So here, like, we don't know what that is. So we're not
Yeah.
saying like he did or didn't. It's just if that wasn't the case, ugh, that's not really a good look because
Yeah.
there was a lot of respect we gained for him. And obviously, he admitted to some faults and some wrongs that he had
Of
in Big
course.
Brother 23. But like, there were a lot of social wins that he was able to accomplish. And
Yeah.
just to see it kind of end this way on the challenge is just kind of disappointing for me. Not kind of, it's pretty disappointing. I know I'm going to say he did not was not the one that brought up the personal stuff, but I don't think it matters because he was still going to make this comment anyways about like I'm going to start treating people like coworkers, and it's just kind of like it's a game, guys. Like I just at the end of the day
I mean,
like
he
it's a
has a
game.
point. He's
I
got
do
a
agree,
very
but
valid point. And it is something that I honestly need to be better about um, in my personal life, like in my work life, my like other work life. But yeah, he's got a point. But man, what is it with he's got something about him that people feel like they just got to attack on a personal level.
I know. I don't.
I mean, did Shan get notes from Kyland or like how did that go over?
Well,
Or
I think this has always been Shan. I didn't do any of Shan's exit interviews out of Survivor, but if I go back, I'm sure they're probably pretty similar. And I don't mean to be that way. Maybe I'm making an incorrect assumption, but
Jasmine
she's pretty salty about a lot of the things from what I could see. So like,
Jasmine did tell the in our current Big Brother house. Jasmine did tell the whole house about the Kyland exit and how what he said about Xavier's nephew and that whole. So we did get to relive that moment for a minute this
gotta love
season.
it. Well, that's one of the things that when I was thinking about going, oh god damn it, I was so good with not getting a text message coming in during this stupid thing right in the last 3 minutes. But like, I think that's one of the things coming into the challenge that I was very curious to see the dynamic of. I had questions, I never posted them. I'm pissed, but it's literally on my list of questions. 5 questions that I had for this season was, what is the dynamic going to be between Kyland and Xavier? And I know that wasn't the whole thing that we're talking about, but it's one of the things because they did not end on good terms coming
Mm-mm.
out of Big Brother 23, despite all of that, everything they accomplished. I'm not
They
bringing
did
up the
make it
comment because there's
right.
no need to rehash it. But if you guys know about it, if you don't, you can go look it up. Yeah, I think I really, so I don't disagree with how Xavier's going about it. I just personally am not that person. Like, it's not that I disagree with him at that. It's just like I would so struggle with doing that because I want to do that. And at the end of the day, I just get sucked back in and be like, I still care about you as a person. But that's just me. And I don't,
Yeah.
maybe that's part of what he's like too. But any exiting thoughts, whether it's about the challenge or Big Brother, because we've had a lot to talk about
It was, yeah,
tonight.
this we have a lot. I'm honestly looking forward to seeing how this week's goes, to see what the leftovers end up landing on. I do know that Monty has just said within the last hour that the most important thing to him is making sure Taylor is comfortable with the plan, and that
We
he has
haven't had
said,
nominations yet, right? Am I correct?
I don't think it's, well, they were supposed to happen today.
They, it seems like it's happening kind of late.
So if we
Am
don't
I
have them today,
wrong?
then maybe tomorrow, but I
It
feel
should
like they should
happen
have.
tonight. I'm checking
Yeah,
Hamster Watch right now to see if the feeds are down. I just haven't paid attention. Nope. No, the feeds are still very much on.
very
What's
much.
going on? What the fuck? No, like, so guys, we record this at the same time every week, right? In the last few weeks, we've been finishing our recordings as the nominations are coming out.
Yeah.
The nominations haven't even started. I am actually like, I just got a little anxiety. Like, what the fuck is going on?
That maybe they're not doing them till tomorrow for whatever reason. We are moving back to a normal schedule though this week.
Oh, no, no, no. I think we got it, and I think we just missed it.
Oh, we have nominations.
Uh, we don't have anything confirmed that I can see from Hamster Watch. I'll check, but it looks like it is Alyssa and Indy up on the block.
Hey, look, I was right.
Boom, boom, boom. Love it. All right.